Chapter 341 Luffy vs. Shiki. Robin's abilities work pretty well against humans, but they're just too weak against these beasts. A giant moth cornered her. No matter what era is looking at the face, beautiful women can always get preferential treatment, and even the hostile pirates don't mind extending a helping hand to a lady in distress although they have ulterior motives. The plot of the hero saving the beauty is a bit old-fashioned, but this is a story routine that can be applied in the world, and it will never be outdated. But the one who saves the beauty may not be a hero, and the orangutan can also become the protagonist of this story. Boom! A huge figure descended from the sky, killing the moth with one punch. After the villain pushes the beauty into a corner, its mission is over, and you can go in peace. For the sake of its great contribution, perhaps it should be incense sticks. Scarado raised his poor little beanie glasses with thick fingers. It felt that its spring had arrived, and its eyes had turned into the shape of hearts. Proverbs fly in the air. The rotors creaked. Anil stood on the deck and observed the whole situation. It seemed that everything was developing along the trajectory of the plot. However, there is still a huge gap between Luffy's combat power and Shiki's, and Anil is still skeptical that he can win. Anil's eyes twitched when he saw an orangutan climb up the top of the tower with a beautiful woman in his hand. The tall flat-roofed building, and the towering metal pole at the top, it looks like a picture in King Kong no matter how you look at it. Even better if there are a few helicopters. Sanji and Brook were also looking at this place at the same time as Enel. Robin-chan, Sanji yelled. What? You said you wanted to marry Robin. You nasty stinky orangutan. Sanji's face was twisted and angry. Understood. Brook looked at Sanji in disbelief. His gaze was like looking at an orangutan. Hey Milo, do you understand? Liu Huo asked. Although Proverbs is quite far from the palace, they are all domineering people, and the sound of this distance can be heard. No, how could I possibly understand what the orangutan said? Milo rolled his eyes. Liu Huo stared at Milo, but that blonde can understand it. They both have the same language. It seems that you are not a qualified pervert. Liu Huo shook his head, and seemed to be lamenting that Milo was not only incompetent as the god of the Sky Island, but also incompetent as a satyr. It was hopeless. Enil suddenly discovered that his small team of 4 was a group of fake and shoddy products. Enel, a fake overlord. Longway. Carter, the fake cat. Actually a sea beast. Milo, the fake pervert. Akutagawa Huang people are quite upright. Maybe, he can be regarded as a fake woman. At least in terms of appearance, there is nothing wrong with it. Of course Anil wouldn't say what's in his heart. It might, no, definitely be cut. Sanji broke out. His anger was full, and his combat power soared. The speed is so fast that the eyes can't keep up. Scarlet lifted his lips and kissed Robin. But before it could come, Sanji rushed to it from below the tower. Roar! It growled angrily, and no one could stop it from marrying. He punched Sanji with a fist. Devil's Foot. Beast Meat Kick. Sanji directly opened the big move, and hit GG in a combo. After the end, he also put on a dashing pass. Damn it, Miss Robin. It was his brief absence that made him remorse. Robin fell down. Sanji jumped down to hug her, but Brook's strength was missed. A dodge caught Robin. Seeing Robin being held in the arms of Princess Brook, Sanji went mad. Why are you taking all the benefits? He wanted to make Brook bone broth. On the other hand, Zoro defeated Indigo and grabbed the antidote that could save Nami. The battle between Shiki and Luffy will be the focus of the entire battle. Luffy has no flying ability and is very passive in front of Shiki. If it wasn't for Billy's help, he wouldn't even be able to touch the corner of his shirt, so he could only be beaten passively. Luffy, who entered the second year, was flushed red, and pink steam rose. This is because he uses the characteristics of the rubber human blood vessels to withstand greater pressure, which speeds up the blood flow and brings him an all-round improvement in strength and speed. Except for the fact that at the beginning, Shiki was beaten by his sudden promotion. After that, Luffy was always at a disadvantage, and he was almost overwhelmed. Are you still going to fight to the death? No matter where you flee, you can't escape the fate of being wiped out. Shiki was completely angry that he would be forced to such an extent by such a little-known brat. Only with the blood of the other party can we wash away our shame. Lion Power Royal Palace Scroll. The snow on the ground was controlled by him to gather together, forming a huge lion head to surround Luffy. Growl silently. Die. The snow lions galloped together, and their might surpassed thousands of troops. The huge lion is like an ancient beast, trying to engulf this tiny figure in front of him. Our destiny is not in your hands. Rubber, machine gun. In an instant, he punched, and afterimages appeared at a high speed, as if a machine gun was shooting. The lion was smashed and turned into flying snow. Shiki is a flying lion who dominates the world. Luffy is like a flapping goshawk, flying nimbly on Billy. The two collided in the air and chased. From time to time, fists stretched like rubber bands or invisible slashes flew past. Hit the ground, forming a deep hole. Chopping. Ski kicked out a huge slash. The rays of light seem to occupy the entire world. This is his power, one of the three great pirates in the past. The huge slash smashed the sea, and a corner of the sea was surrounded by Luffy under his control. Luffy was surrounded by sea water and was completely powerless. The pain of suffocation took over his brain, and he rolled his eyes. But the characteristics of the devil fruit made him not even have the strength to struggle. It's over, Akutagawa said, although as a newcomer, it's really good to be able to do this. But after all, it's too young, and it's too early for them to face Mr. Shiki now. Hey, it's still the same, I lost. Although there has been a lot of progress compared to the first game, the final result has not changed. The Straw Hat Pirates will probably be wiped out. Milo was quite a bit surprised. Pity. Anal stared at Luffy, always feeling that things would not be so simple. Luffy is a man who fights more and more bravely in the face of adversity. A strange feeling suddenly appeared. The breath has changed. Hey, it's this feeling again, it's much stronger than last time. Milo looked up at the sky. The one who reacted the most was Akutagawa Huang. His eyes widened, and a look of shock appeared on his calm face. How is that possible? This feeling Shanks. Chapter 342 Transfer. The breath has indeed changed. It is not Luffy who has changed, but the whole world. In the past, Enel had only vaguely sensed it with his beast-like intuition, but at this time, the feeling was so strong that it was almost directly present in front of his eyes. He was a little uncomfortable, as if some force in his body had been suppressed. Milo also felt strange. He suddenly found that the speed of his elementalization seemed to be a little slower than usual. Even Herring, who has always been only responsible for cuteness, has a solemn expression on her face. Liu Huo glanced at the sky suspiciously. Why do I feel weird? Me, Huo, let me comfort you. Herring stretched out her claws and grabbed towards Liu Huo's chest. She was slapped on the ground. Carter froze. Why see, something is wrong here. Why do you feel like there are enemies everywhere? I feel the same way, as if the whole world is an enemy. My dragon power has also been suppressed, and it feels very laborious to release. Enel said. Milo nodded, looked at the sky and said, my ability to control thunder and lightning seems to have decreased. Hey, what do you know? I've felt this kind of power before. The shock in Akutagawa Huang's eyes still didn't fade away, and he stared at Luffy. I didn't expect that Straw Hat Boy to have such aptitude. Huh, Shiki suddenly felt that something was wrong. He always felt weird. Because his head is on the rudder, he can't use a lot of domineering. But now I felt the hostility from all directions. I was cautious, and glanced over with the color of knowledge, but found nothing. What's wrong? Is it an illusion? It seems that I had a similar feeling many years ago. When was it? It was too long, and Shiki had forgotten under what circumstances he encountered a similar situation. Jia ha 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 ha, the outcome is already divided, boy. Shiki laughed. Since he couldn't remember it, he didn't want to. If there is any danger, he follows. This is his confidence in his own strength. Suddenly, the phone worm rang. The navigator squad is calling Lord Ski. Please move the island to the east, the storm is coming. Ski obeyed his advice and controlled the island to float east. In fact, this is what the man said when Nami threatened, the east is the direction of the storm. Is that enough ability? However, it must be very painful for devil fruit abilities, right? But now it's not a mistake made by the blood and energy. Whether it's Donghai or that little girl, you are in that world. Watch them perish in desperation. Skur turned his attention back to Luffy. Lion Chikiri Valley. One after another, slashes flew towards the water polo wrapped around Luffy. The impacted water waves flowed, carrying Luffy up and down. This large number of slashes did not hit a single one. Just ripped off some clothes. Luffy and Billy fell down. Oh, that trick not. Herring turned to look at Akutagawa Huang. Huang once studied under Shiki. That's why he respects Shiki so much. Anil explained. Dark clouds quickly covered the sky, and the darkness seemed to cover the world. Exploding head. Shiki's description is very vivid. But is this the time to show off your rich associative powers? Enel had to complain. Is Shiki's brain damaged? Halo? This ability to control is greatly reduced. After slashing so many times, he missed a single blow, and instead released Luffy from the sea. And seeing that explosive head, seeing that thundercloud, no matter what you think, you should change direction quickly. What's wrong? Herring looked east. Oh, it's nothing, it's just that we're rushing towards the storm. Liu Huo was digging his booger, looking indifferent. Are you all right? Herring seemed to be infected by her calmness. Something proverbs may be torn apart by the storm. Maybe we fall into the sea, and then be swallowed by the huge waves. Liu Huo's face remained unchanged. But Caroline and the others turned pale. Damn it, it's over, I'm about to drown. Huo, woo, I haven't run away with you yet. Herring panicked and cried out with a wow. Carter complained. Are you afraid of being drowned? Are you afraid of being a fake fish? Oh, by the way, I'm a mermaid, I can't drown. Ha. Rumbling, thunder flashes in the dark clouds, the faint blue light is so conspicuous, with great power, it seems that the gods are roaring in the air. The huge silver snake tumbled and twisted like a monster dancing. The deafening sound echoed between the sky and the earth, and the giant beasts fled in horror. They are not afraid of strong enemies, but the forces of nature. Oops, the island is heading for a storm. What to do? Brothers, flee to the sea. A pirate captain hesitated for a while, but finally decided to flee. The battle situation has changed again. Ski. He may be defeated, Enel said. Yeah, Akutagawa Huang nodded. If Mr. Shike can calm down and face it correctly, there is still a chance of winning. However, his mood swings are too strong, and there is no way to accurately judge the situation. Milo narrowed his eyes. That's how I was back then. What a terrifying ability. Anil glanced at the fleeing monsters, and a trace of pity flashed in his eyes. Although a little jealous of their vitality, the battle in the air is what he is most concerned about. Some of the vitality is harvested locally, and such battles are rare. Especially the ability that Luffy showed, it was like the halo of the protagonist. It is always possible to turn bad luck into good luck. Anil had a feeling at this time, it seemed that the whole world was helping Luffy to fight, and the hostility from all directions was the hostility from the world. Carter spoke Anil's heart. How do I feel? The whole world is helping Luffy. Milo nodded in agreement. Obviously, he felt similar. Lu Huo also faintly noticed this. The rest of the people are not strong enough, and they are still confused. Hey Milo, Huo, what are you talking about? Why can't I understand a word? Is that old rooster about to lose? Herring tugged at Milo's trouser legs. At this moment, Milo completely ignored her thoughts and looked at Luffy with a solemn expression. He and Luffy have a little bit of hatred, and are considering whether to kill this person who may be his enemy in the future and has great potential. Actually you feel right, The whole world is helping him, that's okay. This is the ability of that straw hat Luffy. The power that can control everything in the world. Akutagawa Huang's voice was low, like praise young, like a shallow singing, with solemn and heavy. Chapter 343 King's Heart. The overlord color is the qualification of the king, the proof of the overlord. When a person has been in contact with the domineering owner of the overlord for a long time, he will be infected by his mind and spirit, identify with him, affirm him, follow him. However, the power of the overlord is not only that, the objects it can affect are not only people. Everything in the world is within its influence. The sky, the earth, the ocean, everything in the world will help it have, go allegiance to him. The collision between the so-called overlords is a confrontation that supports the will of all things of the two overlords. The sky will be torn apart, the sea will become choppy, the earth will tremble, and the wind will blow. When the highest level of tyrant's arrogance truly awakens and explodes, it will form a domain, and all things in the domain will swear allegiance to that tyrant, and obey his orders and let him rule. This domain can be called the territory of the tyrant. Quote. Akutagawa Huang's eyes were sharp, as if he was about to shoot Luffy through the straw hat. Why can't I understand a little bit? Herring's IQ seemed a little insufficient. Ordering all things, such power is simply the power of God. Lu Huo's pupils shrank. Are you saying that the straw hat has opened the territory of the overlord? Milo was also a little confused. How could that stupid straw hat have such a powerful ability? No, not yet. If he really uses that, he won't be so passive. At that time, he can directly suppress the current Shiji. It should be said that what he has is the territory of the immature tyrant, a seed, maybe we can call it the heart of a king. Akutagawa looked at Milo with the eyes of an idiot. Hey, what kind of eyes are you looking at? You want to fight? Milo glared back angrily. I understand what you mean. So that's how it is. Anil turned his head to look to the east, and the thunder in the sky was gathering. That enormous amount of energies came together at an extremely unreasonable density. Luffy sent Billy into the sky. Gear 3, Bone Balloons. Luffy bit his thumb and blew a lot of air into it. His arms quickly inflated like a balloon being blown up. What a great lung capacity. No ventilation. The gas travels from the arms to the body and then to the legs. A huge foot appeared in the sky. What is that? Ski and Carter questioned together. This trick, is it funny? You bastard, just wait for the thunder to concentrate and fall. Shiji gritted his teeth. He was very puzzled. How could this guy in front of him look like an unbeatable Xiaoqiang? Even though his body was bruised, he still stood up and continued to fight. You are the one who should fall. I will never let you go to the East China Sea. Luffy shouted. Jia, ha 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 ha, you idiot, I'm the man who wants to rule this sea from the sky. How could he be stopped by a brat like you? I won't let you do whatever you want to my partner and this sea. Huge soles of feet reach into the clouds. The clouds seem to be stirred by something, forming a huge vortex. In the center of the vortex, a dazzling thunder flashed. Thousands of thunders converge, and terrifying energy is introduced into it. Endless thunder surrounded Luffy's feet. The sky, the thunder surrendered to him. Luffy is like a king, swinging his sword of judgment from the sky. To not throw everything into the dust. Miro, Liu Huo asked suspiciously. Milo shook his head. It's not me, those thunders are not controlled by me. They seem to have their own will. The will is very strong and covers my command. Today, Akutagawa Huang showed more surprised expressions than in the past month. Is this really just a seed? This is almost close to the real outbreak of the tyrant's territory. Shike was stunned. The past suddenly came to his mind. He remembered it, and remembered when he felt this feeling of being enemies on all sides. The battle that cost his fleet more than half, the Battle of Edwall. The formidable enemy he once admired, Gall Roger's figure appeared in front of him, with a confident smile still on his face. It's you, Roger. With unwillingness and anger, Shiki rolled up the sand and stones on the ground, forming sharp thorns. In the roar of anger, countless sharp stones covered with armed color domineering and shot straight at Luffy. This is the first time Shike has used domineering in this battle. He is old, and his old body with old injuries can no longer support his ambitions, and he can no longer use domineering as recklessly as in the past. His heart is still the mighty and majestic lion, but his body is weakened. He was unwilling to be so rotten and old, so he exhausted his strength and wanted to leave his own claw marks in this world. Lion, even if you want to die, you have to die on the way. He is not willing to grow old like an ordinary old man in an unknown corner. The Giant Thunder Axe. The stone thorn collided with the giant's foot surrounded by thunder, and was turned to dust in the dazzling thunder. The power of Luffy's blow, under the blessing of the force of nature, is enough to shatter the island, and its power is chasing the full blow of the four emperors. When the stone thorns were crushed, Shiji knew that he was defeated, and he failed again. And there may be no chance to come back again, he is old after all. Have I been stopped by the man from the East China Sea again, Roger? In the blue thunder light, the golden lion was shot down from the sky, like an eagle with a broken wing, falling feebly. The lion's saga was terminated by a new saga called the Straw Hat. With Ski unconscious, Vermeil also fell from the sky. The island blocked the sun, the sky was dark, and it fell into the sea like a meteorite strike. The huge impact set off a tsunami hundreds of meters high. The terrifying air waves swept across the four directions like a gust of wind, and the natural disaster-like scene seemed like the end of the world. On the sea, a fleet of more than a dozen naval warships is approaching from a distance. The Navy has come to attack Sai. The police always do it after it's over, and the Navy seems to have that tradition too. The warship was undulating in the huge waves, like a small boat in a heavy rain, and it seemed that it would sink at any time. Lieutenant General Ghost Spider was smoking a cigarette, his eyes drooping. She found the golden lion squee. Go and catch him. Look, what is that? Could it be that they did all this? The Ghost Spider also saw the Straw Hat pirates who used Ski's pirate flag as a parachute and hung from the sunny. Target, Straw Hat pirates, prepare to fire. Ghost Spider shouted. Sky was clearly defeated and could be captured without too much force. Although it is not clear why the Straw Hat is here, but it has always been a disgrace to the Navy for them to escape on Judiciary Island. As one of the lieutenant generals who participated in that battle, Ghost Spider certainly wouldn't let them off so easily. Chapter 344 The Protagonist's Halo. Enel finally understood Luffy's abilities. That protagonist halo is actually a very high level of domineering. It is not accidental that Luffy often defeats powerful enemies far beyond himself in battle, leading to miraculous victories. In the battles Enel observed with Crocodile, Milo, and Ski, Luffy was always at a disadvantage at first. But as the battle progressed, the tide of the battle was reversed little by little, and in the end it even succeeded in counterkilling. There is an invisible force at work. Luffy's domineering level of domineering is extremely high, although he is immature. Just like Iji has the domineering dominance of listening to all things, he also has the aptitude for domineering at the level of the tyrant's territory. But his aura was not enough to fully activate the king's heart, to transform it into the territory of tyrants. This does not mean that his overlord aptitude is completely useless. The heart of a king he possesses can infect others, making it easier for him to gain the trust and following of others. And in battle, everything around him is helping him. Every stone on the battlefield, the will of every leaf, is expanding his advantages and magnifying the opponent's shortcomings. Little by little, guide the situation in Luffy's favor. In the end, he won the battle. Of course, this kind of power is also limited. It is not that Luffy has overwhelming power at the beginning, but that his advantages are accumulated bit by bit. Luffy needs to rely on his foundation to fight the opponent before he can gain enough advantage to win the game. In Luffy's fight with Milo, he didn't play Milo at all at first. Then there was an accident in the fire, and he was stunned by a hypnotizing bomb by Usopp, causing Milo to be furious. Normally, Milo wouldn't be so angry that he almost lost his mind. But under the guidance of Luffy's domineering arrogance, he led in the direction that was beneficial to Luffy. Expanding his anger, Milo's heart was almost temporarily destroyed. This kind of emotional induction must have a certain basis, just like the other party clearly has no anger, so no matter how much you magnify it, it still has no effect. The stronger the will of the opponent, the less effective this inducement will be. But Milo's will, no one who has ruled the sky for more than 10 years can shake his position. How firm can Milo have no setbacks? He was so beaten by Luffy that he seized the opportunity and almost lost consciousness. However, his body is not bad, and he recovered in the air. At this point, Luffy was no longer able to fight. Therefore, when Luffy's foundation is not enough and the gap with the enemy is too great, his king's heart is also difficult to turn over. After all, it is difficult for a clever woman to cook without rice. No matter how good a general is, when the strength gap between the enemy and us is too large, there is no way. Under the excessive strength gap, all tricks are futile. Luffy was spared by Aokiji when he encountered General Aokiji in front of the water capital. At that time, Aokiji's attitude was actually oscillating between killing and not killing. For him, these two choices are like roast duck or roast chicken for lunch when money is limited, which makes him hesitant. Which one he chooses has a similar probability. Maybe Aokiji may prefer chicken. Under the guidance of Luffy's king's heart, he guided in the direction that was beneficial to him, so he chose not to kill. In Bermeo, Luffy met Ski. This time was the most intense outbreak of his king's heart, which almost formed the dominant territory, which directly transformed into Luffy's combat power. During the counterattack, the Straw Hats sabotaged Sai's sworn ceremony, destroyed his palace, and angered him. This gave him the idea of giving the Straw Hats more torture and letting them die in despair. He didn't kill Luffy for a while, and let Luffy, who had already been caught by him with a water polo, use Chikirigu to release it. This is the heart of the king, which slightly magnifies Shiji's feeling of winning and his mentality of torturing Luffy. In Shiki's view, no matter how hard the opponent struggled, he couldn't escape his grasp. It manifests itself as the legendary aura of wisdom reduction. Then, Heart of the King broke out. First, Nami misleads Sai to move the island into the storm. Then Luffy used the third gear to bless the lightning that had already surrendered to him on the attack. In fact, at this time, Shike still has a chance of winning. The third gear's attack speed is very slow, and he can completely avoid it. After all, Heart of the King can't improve Luffy's basic abilities out of thin air. However, at this time, Shike was recalled by this scene. The sudden storm, the roaring sky, and the feeling of enemies everywhere reminded him of Roger. The trance-like Sky is not willing to retreat. He has lived in the shadow of Roger all his life, and he wants to defeat the man who will make him unforgettable for the rest of his life. Under this mentality, he chose to face Luffy, who made him feel like facing Roger. Ultimately, he failed. Luffy used the power of nature to defeat the four emperors in a single blow. Luffy's Heart of the King outbreak this time is not considered the territory of the tyrant. Otherwise, without guidance, he can naturally use the Thunder Axe of Giants trick. So fighting with Luffy, as long as you solve it quickly, don't give him a chance to accumulate his advantages. Knowing Luffy's abilities, Enel was relieved. Although such an ability can be called a bug, there is a limit to his strength, and the growth limit will not be much higher than that of the four emperors. What worries Enel really is that Luffy is really like some fantasy or infinite settings. He is the son of the world in this world. Killing him will cause the world's will to counterattack. If that's the case, Enel doesn't have to play, just rush up and hug his thighs anyway. He is the real son of the world, and fighting against him is against the entire pirate world. Thinking about it makes your scalp numb. Now Luffy is just a four emperors combat power that has not grown up. Occasionally, he can display the strength comparable to the four emperors, but it is just like fireworks, only a moment of splendor. There is nothing to be afraid of. Compared to himself, Garp, Dragon and Shanks behind him make Enel more fearful. Enel also thought that Shanks, Fruit of Face, should also have a certain degree of application in the territory of the tyrant. Guide him to the decision Shanks expects as Sengoku hesitates between continue fighting and truce. Of course, this can only take effect when the inclinations of the two choices in the warring states are similar. After all, this is just a guide, and it cannot forcibly change a person's will. Hey Enel, do we want to kill him? This kid looks very dangerous. Milo felt a little bad, and he might not be able to beat him in the future. Enel rolled his eyes. Don't worry, there's me, I'm just a rookie who hasn't grown up. Besides, we're not a navy, we don't need to do things like fighting pirates and maintaining world peace. Looking for trouble, the huge force behind him is very tricky. Quote. Enel was suddenly stunned. He was a little suspicious of his own attitude, which was also influenced by Luffy's king's heart. He looked at Luffy who was falling, and his killing intent rose, and then went out again. Whether it is to kill or not to kill, it does not violate his original intention. Enel has an attitude of ambivalence towards Luffy at this time, and to put it bluntly, it doesn't matter. It's all your own will anyway, so what does it matter if you're affected or not? If Enel is really determined to kill Luffy, the heart of the king alone can't change his mind. Chapter 345 End. Aren't you going? Huang. Carter and I are not very convenient to shoot. Enel looked at Shiki who was falling down. Akutagawa Kwong jumped down on the air. Damn, where is the stupid cat? It won't attack the navy, right? Before the big war comes, we need to maintain a good relationship with the navy. In this way, we can get the most out of the smallest effort on the battlefield. Enel looked around, but couldn't find Carter. Milo pointed to the sea. The sharp-eyed Enel saw a pink cat's head looming in the waves not far from the warship. He couldn't help covering his face. It's not easy to suppress the matter in the capital of water last time. If we deal with the navy this time, I'm afraid it will really break up. Forget it, break it up, it's a big deal to silence them all. Anyway, with the interference of Caroline's fruit ability, the phone bug can't spread the news. However, Carter did not attack the warship, but put a box into the space, and then dived underwater. It was secretly collecting treasures. When Carter brought the 3 devil fruits to Enel, the latter patted his forehead with a look of remorse. He patronized and watched the battle, ignoring that after Shiki's defeat, his belongings became unowned and could be moved in secretly. Enel doesn't care much about money, the devil fruit is the key. 1 or 2 devil fruits can't bring him much help, but no matter how small a mosquito is, it's still meat. Although Shiji is down and out, he is also the #1 pirate in the past. Of course he has some savings. He has not wasted his time in these 20 years. Carter, on a trip, go and bring Indigo too. A scientist plays a big role. Moreover, it is Indigo who is good at the field of biological genes. With his help, the research progress of artificial devil fruit can be greatly improved. The guy Caesar has been a little slack, and from time to time misappropriation of funds to research gas bombs. Enel had long planned to find him a competitor. He is indeed worthy of the title of genius scientist, and it is difficult to find talents who can compare with him. For such a person, Enel did not intend to force it, which would make him fall completely to Doflamingo. But it's also necessary to put some pressure on him from other aspects, so that he doesn't have to find weakly girls often when he has nothing to do. On the other hand, Akutagawa received the Golden Lion. Sakura Sword Princess, what do you want to do? Ghost Spider's face was gloomy. The opponent's actions were obviously preventing their navy from capturing Shiki. Sakura Sword Princess. Peef ha 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 ha. Hearing this nickname, Milo laughed wildly, hammering the deck. GG, it suits him. At this time, Proverbs was close to the warship, in the sky, like a vigorous eagle looking down on a hen on the ground. Look, what is that? Flying ships, sailors exclaimed. But isn't Ski already knocked down? That ship flies in the air on its own power. Lieutenant Flying Squirrel shrank his pupils. This kind of flying guy is the most difficult to deal with. If such a pirate ship can be mass-produced, it will cause great trouble for their navy. Are you trying to cover up Shiki? Huo Shaoshan took a sharp puff of cigarette, and the red light at the front of the cigarette suddenly lit up, burning a large part of it. Akutagawa's face was as black as tan, and he heard Milo's laughter. Throw ski to Anastasia and confront the Navy. I don't need you to take care of what I do, right? Huang's tone was not good, and there was a big fight. The ghost spider frowned. If only Akutagawa Huang was alone. They have a great chance of winning together. This fleet itself is here to crusade the Golden Lion, and even if it cannot be captured, it can cause him a lot of trouble. It is conceivable that the military force dispatched by the Navy is definitely not weak. If Akutagawa Huang is alone, his strength is at best on a par with Shiki. The problem is that the strange ship flying in the sky has a guy who mocks Akutagawa recklessly. He is also a character not much weaker than him. In addition, there is an inexplicable aura of danger entrenched on it. Ghost spiders are hawks. The Navy is good, but hawks do not mean no brains. They will judge whether to fight according to the situation, instead of rushing to bite when you see a pirate like a mad dog. Even Akainu, when Shanks appeared in the original book, knew that nothing could be done. When the warring states issued the armistice order, no objection was raised. Although it is very troublesome, the task we received is to arrest Shiji. So it is impossible to retreat like this. Doberman took out his knife and expressed his attitude. That's right, this sea is always dominated by justice. We will never escape no matter how powerful the power of evil is, it will eventually be wiped out. Justice will prevail. The ghost spider's hair was curled into an arm, and he clenched his sword. He used the return of life to form 6 arms, plus the original 2, he used the 8-knife flow. Unlike an octopus who wields 8 knives, he is a serious swordsman. The dense knives made him as terrifying as a human-shaped killing machine. HMPH Flying Squirrel, Huo Shaoshan, Doberman, Ghost Spider, Bastille 5 Lieutenant Generals, 10 warships, the combat power of a demon slaughtering order. Akutagawa Huang looked solemn and slowly pulled out 7-star sword. After absorbing the resentment from the original inverse shadow, this demon sword will become even more strange and unknown. Just seeing its blood-red blade, it feels like the soul will be sucked away. Hey, that knife feels so uncomfortable. Herring frowned. That knife, it's almost alive. I seem to be able to hear its voice with a sense of hearing. Lu Huo stared at the 7-star sword. The Navy soldiers looked at the 7-star sword, their eyes blank, like puppets. Don't stare at that sword. Bastille shouted, awakening the sailors from their hypnotized state. Sakura Chikiri Valley. Sakura flowers falling rain. Sakura crosscut. Akutagawa Huang has already launched an offensive, and 3 huge sword lights mixed with dense sword energy fell like raindrops, covering all the warships. Come on, bum. I support you spiritually. I'll help you in sense when you die. Milo added to him on Proverbs. A black pound sign appeared on Akutagawa Huang's forehead, and he made up his mind to look back to Milo. Ainil rolled his eyes. Although I don't expect you to be united, but if you encounter problems, you will be united to the outside world. Is it really good to coax in the nest at this time? Chapter 346 Watermelon with a history of more than 10 years. Ainil's relationship with Milo has not been exposed, and the connection with Akutagawa has remained in the Navy's intelligence system more than 10 years ago. All the forces he masters are still only black market strongholds scattered around the world in the Navy's cognition. But just those strongholds they have identified are already a very terrifying force. He and Doflamingo have mastered 15% of the underground arms trading channels in the entire world. More than 40% of arms dealers have direct or indirect ties to them. There are also some secret information points that Enel holds alone. Enel needs a lot of vitality. The underwater prison and the war on the top are 2 big experience packages for him. He has confirmed that as long as the general conditions remain unchanged, some major events are generally not much different from the original plot. For those 2 experience packs, Enel didn't want to make any big moves at this time. Do your best to maintain the status quo. In order to avoid some moths, causing his long-term plans to fail. So now is not the time to expose his connection with Akutagawa and Milo. Anil and Carter did not fight. The rest of his subordinates who had been on the Navy list also hid in the cabin. Milo didn't seem to intend to go up to help, and Akutagawa Huang fought very hard against the 5 lieutenants alone. If it weren't for the existence of Bastille, who is weak among lieutenant generals, and they were worried that Milo couldn't concentrate, I'm afraid he would be completely defeated. At this time, Akutagawa Huang had no energy at all to watch Milo play tricks again. He was pushed to the point where he had to go all out. Only the figure of the enemy and the constant flash of sword light in his eyes. Attacks came from all directions, and after blocking one, the other would attack from hard-to-defend places. The 4 lieutenant generals left him with little room to fight back. As for why it changed from 5 to 4. That was because Akutagawa felt too much pressure at the beginning, so he aimed his attack at those warships. He can cut a warship in half with one knife. The steel shell of the warship has the strength to resist ordinary shells, but it is as fragile as a piece of paper in front of the sword light that can cut apart the island. And the Navy soldiers on the warship were originally the elites of the headquarters that made the pirates feel fearful, but at this time they were as powerless as children. They were completely unable to intervene in the battles of those monsters, and even became a drag on their own lieutenant generals. After losing 2 warships in a row, Huo Shaoshan, who loved his subordinates, withdrew from the siege and concentrated on guarding the warships. Doberman and Ghost Spider also have no objection. Otherwise, I am afraid that these 10 warships will be scrapped soon. No one wants to swim back to the Navy headquarters. Even so, Akutagawa Huang still feels a lot of pressure, although the Vice Admiral has almost become a background for the pirates in the comics. In fact, they are not weak. The lieutenant generals are already quite powerful beings, and there is actually not such a big fault between them and the generals. From the weaker John Garendo, Maynard, Bastille, to ghost spiders, flying squirrels, burning mountains and then cranes, peach rabbits, dolphins. A top-level lieutenant general can be said to have the strength of a general. The reason why the gap between the general-lieutenant general and the general is so big is because the 3 generals themselves are the strongest 3 selected from the people with the strength of the general. In the general strength, it can also be divided into 3 levels. The 3 generals of the first echelon, the 4 emperors, Carp, and the Warring States period. The second echelon is Tautu, Dolphin, Marco, Katakuri, and these general candidates are vice presidents. The third echelon is Doflamingo, Snickers, Crane, the aged Zephyr. Starting from the second echelon, they can only be called lieutenant generals in the Navy. With those waist lieutenant generals, it is a rank in the military rank. And those really top lieutenant generals, who can be called alternate generals, haven't done much in the original work. So it creates the illusion that the lieutenant general is weak. Lieutenant generals like the 4 or 5 ghost spiders who are close to the strength of the generals in the third echelon can completely gain the upper hand in the battle with Akutagawa, who is close to the second echelon. Swords, lights, swords and shadows filled the entire space, leaving almost no gap. Akutagawa Huang kept dodging and swung his sword. Cut out a majestic blade like a tsunami. The huge knife light traverses hundreds of meters, as if to cut open the sea. The ghost spider swung the 8-handed sword and worked with Doberman to break the blow. There is a lot of heat here, and there is a leisurely time like a family going to the wild for spring in the spring. Herring was holding a piece of watermelon in his hand, and his face was full of watermelon juice. This melon is so sweet. It's really sweet, reminds me of the watermelon in Alabasta, and it's so sweet. The watermelon seeds spit out from Milo's mouth, like a submachine gun firing, and the deck rattled. This is the watermelon of Alabasta. I put it in the space more than 10 years ago. It is an old watermelon with a history of more than 10 years. You should cherish it, Carter said. The tone seemed to be introducing a bottle of 1982 Lafite. PFF cough cough. Milo stopped choking. Can you still eat melons? Isn't it poisonous? Eat it with confidence. it's still fresh before its expiration date. I piled them up with canned fish, and I've just returned them recently, Carter replied. In fact, it has no bottom in its own heart. In theory, the food in the space will not deteriorate. Don't be afraid at 10,000, just let Milo try the poison, anyway, it will never touch it until it is confirmed that it is non-toxic. Hey Milo, go help Huang when you have time, the situation there is not very good. Enel said. I do not know since when, Akutagawa Huang has had scars on his body. The red blood stained his white samurai uniform, adding a touch of poignancy to him. Actually, I wanted to help for a long time, but if you look at him like that, I might be chopped off for what I said in the past. He probably doesn't want others to interfere, Milo said. Enel didn't want to show his face, and hid in the cabin, but he only sensed that Akutagawa Huang was injured from what he saw. Then he used Caroline's ability to use the video phone bug to see Akutagawa Huang's current appearance. He was covered in blood, his enemies, and more his own. Both Doberman and the ghost spider had a huge wound on their chests, the flying squirrel was bleeding from the left shoulder, and only half of Bastile's mask remained. Akutagawa Huang's face was pale, and he had lost too much blood. But there was a crazy smile on his face, like a grinning evil spirit. Ha ha ha, come let blood stain the sky red, decorate the world with death, come on, go on, let me appreciate death, beautiful death. Let the flower of life bloom with its final color. Quote. The corners of Enel's eyes twitched. Why did he feel Huang was so happy? Is it really going to happen now? Enel took a deep breath and said, Okay, don't bother him Milo, be careful not to let another lieutenant general intervene in the fight. Stop him if he wants to. Carter, if Huang is in danger, you can save him in time. Him. Chapter 347 The storm is coming. At sea, 6 heavily damaged warships drifted. Their decks are empty, the masts are gone, and the broken places are jagged. Akutagawa Huang's battle with the lieutenants was not over, but was interrupted by a sudden storm. If the storm has self-awareness, it will say, or all eyes blind. If I didn't see it, I'm coming soon, you are still here as if no one else is here, beating to death like nothing. You look down on me, storm, too much. When Luffy was fighting with Shiki, he had already shown a terrifying scene where the black cloud was pressing down on the city, and the storm that followed was of course not an ordinary magnitude. Under such a force of nature, there is really no solution. The 10 warships brought by the Crusade team led by 5 lieutenant generals finally left 6 tattered. 2 were sunk by Akutagawa in the previous battle, and the other 2 were collided in a storm. The sides were badly damaged, and a large hole was broken in the belly. As a last resort, they had to give up. Fortunately, the 2 warships stubbornly supported until all the personnel were transferred before they were swallowed up by the wind and waves. There were no major casualties. The military operation was technically a complete failure, and they did nothing. But the ultimate goal was unexpectedly achieved. They were meant to stop Shiki, who wanted revenge on the world. Sky was indeed blocked, but the hero who saves the world is not them, but the Straw Hat Luffy, who is also a pirate. Huo Shaoshan contacted the warring states and reported to him what happened here. The information they get is also very limited. Sengoku rubbed his forehead. It was a good thing that Shiki was defeated, but the information revealed here gave him new worries. That's all the Navy knows. Sky is defeated by unknown people. The pirate ship of the Straw Hats was seen at the scene. Akutagawa, who suddenly appeared, rescued Shiki and engaged in a battle with the Navy. There are also ships flying in the sky and the strong man who is closely related to Akutagawa. No matter what you think, there is a problem. Akutagawa and Kaido's cooperation to conquer Wano is no secret to the Navy. Although it is unclear why he has never joined the Beast Pirates, but in terms of his behavior, he is almost a member of the Beast's Pirates. Could it be that Kaido and Shiki are going to join forces? Things seem to be going in a more serious direction. And what happened to the unidentified strong man? The 4% siege of Akutagawa had the upper hand at first, but after he became bloodthirsty, the battle took a turn for the worse. Bastille was seriously injured and dying. The ghost spider had most of its hair cut off. Doberman was pierced by a sword in the abdomen, and the flying squirrel broke several ribs. Huo Shaoshan wanted reinforcements, but was stopped by Milo. They didn't know who the green-haired man was, only that he was terrifyingly strong and seemed to be able to manipulate lightning. In fact, nothing happened to Kaido at all. To put it bluntly, it is very simple, that is, Luffy defeated Shiki, Enel and his gang watched a good show, and finally saved Shiji and finally received a little thing from Shiji. It can only be said that the Warring States period thinks too much, the troubles of the wise. Garp, who also heard this, laughed out loud. As expected of my grandson, did he kill Shiki too? Cap, you can still laugh. It's not necessarily your grandson, it's not that simple. As soon as he met Garp, Sengoku couldn't calm down. The former drove him crazy. I have a hunch, don't underestimate Luffy, ha 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 ha. Sengoku, don't think too complicated, isn't it a good thing that Shiki's conspiracy has been stopped? Our original purpose is this. Recently there shouldn't be anything happening again. Garp pointed to the essence of the matter in one sentence. That's right, Sengoku smiled. Kazuna frowned and said slowly, Mr. Warring States, you said that Huo Shaoshan met a man who made thunder and lightning. What, Kizaru, do you know him? Well, I seem to have encountered it 8 years ago in the sky. Bika Island was destroyed by a huge thunderball. If there is no accident, it may be the same person. If it is him, the problem will be very difficult. What that guy's sight is domineering, and his coverage is terrifying. 8 years ago, the Cloud Sea War. It seems that CP7 suffered a lot of losses in that war. I remember that it was you who had just been promoted to general to deal with it. That's right, the officials in charge of purchasing materials at that time embezzled public funds and wanted to forcibly squeeze the people of Bika, and they were attacked by the divine soldiers. When I went there, the war had been going on for a while, and the people of Bika gave us a hug. With great resentment, there is no possibility of negotiation at all, so there is only force to suppress. But I just went up, and there was no action. That guy started. He used thunder and lightning to destroy the entire island. There were almost no survivors. Really decisive in order to prevent the government from occupying that kind of resources, the island was directly destroyed. Kizaru's tone was sloppy, a little procrastination. You mean that there is still such a powerful enemy staring at him? Warring States finally eased his heart and raised it again. He didn't think that people who were persecuted by other governments would have a good impression of them. He hasn't shown up for 8 years, and as soon as he appeared, he became involved with Shiki and Akutagawa. Warring States' brain hurts. It's a troubled time. That pirate called Blackbeard is also a troublesome guy, and he actually took Fire Fist Ace as his weight to become Chiwahai. Whitebeard will definitely not let it go now. That man will never allow others to harm his family. Quote, it's really scary, so we're going to fight Whitebeard head on. Forgive me, I don't want to fight that kind of monster. Huang Yuan said so, but his expression was still relaxed. Looking at him with an old face going up is still so wretched. Hearing Sengoku talking about Ace, a strange light flashed in Garp's eyes. Ha 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 ha, if you don't want to fight him, then you can just let Ace go. How about it, Sengoku? Garp said half-jokingly. Cap, calm down, don't act impulsive, think clearly about your identity. Sengoku didn't dare to take this sentence as a joke. His expression was very serious. He put his hand on his shoulder, and said seriously. He was worried that Garp really went to the underwater prison to save people. Well, don't look so scary, I know what to do. Garp's tone was a little desolate, his back seemed to be bent a bit. Grandpa, Dolores looked at Carter's bleak back and couldn't help but say. Don't worry, I'm fine. Garp closed his eyes. Chapter 348. The storm is coming too. What did the 5 old stars say? He leaned his elbows on the table, resting his chin on his hands. They haven't given an answer yet, and they are still considering how to deal with Fire Fist Ace. The results should come out soon. In any case, we need to be more vigilant against the Whitebeard pirates. They may attack at any time. Come here, Warring States said. By the way, what about that Enel? Didn't he have a conflict with Whitebeard recently? Did he do anything? I can't figure out what the man is thinking. The hatred between him and Titch is also very big, but he publicly supported him to become Shichibukai at the meeting. It seems that he wants to join forces with Blackbeard to deal with Shirobeard, but I always feel something is not quite right. Something is missing from us. Crane was always so calm, nothing seemed to shake her mind. What exactly is the ability of the Black Coffin? We haven't been sure yet, have we? Kizaru suddenly said. Everyone looked at Garp, who was the one who fought the most with Enel. I don't know, he is always secretive and rarely fully transforms. Every time he transforms, he is shrouded in darkness and can't see his body clearly. As far as he has shown, he can manipulate the darkness and be tough. Its scales, huge membrane wings. It seems to be a legendary monster, a dragon. Even if it is not a dragon, it should be a similar creature. There is no doubt that it is in Udaman. Garp said with a serious face, his defense terrible strength and resilience. Manipulating the darkness. I remember that the devil fruit that was robbed by Blackbeard is the darkness fruit. What is the connection between the two? Crane's face was thoughtful. She seemed to have thought of something just now, but she didn't catch it. Inspiration in that moment. That guy Akutagawa Wong stayed by Enel's side for a while, didn't he? Then they separated for unknown reasons. Garp said suddenly. It feels so complicated. Huang Yuan took a sip of tea, stretched Erlang's legs, and then stopped thinking about these troublesome things. Proverbs hover in the sky. Lu Huo was busy with a team of mechanical soldiers. Proverbs took a hit in the storm. The thick wooden board on the side of the boat was as fragile as a piece of paper in the gust of wind. Adding to the trouble, the Proverbs powertrain was broken. When she designed the design, she had taken into account such emergencies from the beginning, and installed a circle of huge spray shells around the ship. This kind of original ancient shell has almost disappeared, and the number of surviving is very rare. Just for the sake of so many dozen sprays, Lu Huo led someone to turn the whole beaka upside down. Da. She repaired the ship with a hammer. Huo, look, I caught a big golden beetle. Herring dangled one in front of her eyes. Lu Huo decisively gave her a hammer in the head. Indigo has woken up, his injuries are not serious, and Shike is still in a coma. If he was young, Luffy wouldn't be able to deal much damage to him even if he focused on him head-on. But now that he is old and frail, his ability to withstand damage is greatly reduced. Indigo is a scientist, good at biological genetics. At the same time, his medical skills are also good. Although he is not at the top level in the world, his medical skills are among the best among general ship doctors. There's nothing he can do about Sai's current situation. Herring remembered that there were more than a dozen wounded on their boat, so he got rid of him to help deal with it. These are the priests and soldiers who were injured in the Battle of Sky Island. The last time I went to the water capital in a hurry, I forgot to call them a doctor. Indigo looked at the ball like Shadley and danced a pantomime on the spot. Blinking his eyes, he felt inexplicable. He opened his mouth and said, "How did this happen? The more straps the better, the better. It's all a ball." "So you can talk," Shira and Shadley complained together. "That's how I was," Shadley said. Indigo blinked, then said, "Oh, you're already fat. You bastard, I'm a priest, you show me some respect." Shadley roared. "Idiot, shut up. This is not an empty island, it's Qinghai. It's called Boss Milo, and you are the cadres under Milo, understand?" Herring stared at Shadley, her eyes narrowed. I got it." He looked at Herring with a trace of fear. "Don't you have a ship doctor? You don't have to deal with such a serious injury." Indigo was puzzled when he treated them. "I dealt with them. How about it? Isn't it very good?" Herring looked like you were complimenting me. Indigo said, "It turned out that you handled it. Their injuries should not have been that serious." Herring. On deck, Enel holds the phone bug. The phone bug's eyes turned into long and narrow bladder-like glasses, a pair of rebellious and gloomy. Wah, have you heard? Enel. Doflamingo was holding a glass of orange juice in his right hand, and turned his head to look at the phone bug on the table beside him. "What's the matter?" Enel asked. "About Fire Fist Ace." "Huh, Ace." Enel had a vague feeling in his heart that the opportunity he had been looking forward to was finally coming. The underwater prison, and the war on the top. "Oh, Fire Fist Ace, I have received information about his contact with Tiki." "Did he lose?" "Huh, you actually think Ace will lose? It seems that you have played against Tiki before. Otherwise, generally speaking, you wouldn't think that Whitebeard's able-bodied, the famous Fire Fist Ace would lose to an unknown newcomer." Doflamingo was a little surprised. "That's right, Fire Fist Ace lost. Blackbeard dedicated him to the Navy, showed his amazing strength and joined us, becoming the Shichibukai who succeeded Crocodile." Yee. "Enel, what do you think? The future direction of this world? How will the Navy deal with the impending attack of Whitebeard, compromise, negotiation, or war? If it is the latter, then the forces on the sea will be reshuffled. A new round of hegemony will unfold." Doflamingo looked up at the sky, and there seemed to be a storm brewing in the darkness in the distance. "It should be a war now. The Revolutionary Army is developing rapidly like wildfire, and pirates are raging all over the world. The control of the world government has dropped to freezing point. They need a huge victory to stabilize the people's hearts and consolidate their prestige. Isn't the old Whitebeard the best target?" Enel didn't hide his opinion, and with Doflamingo's keenness, he could totally detect it. "It's the same as what I thought. Hey, if Whitebeard dies in this war, the person most likely to become the new Four Emperors seems to be you." Brother Doflamingo took a little teasing and temptation. Hum, it's too early to say this now. Who can tell the future clearly? I hope our friendship can last long." Enel hung up the phone. Doflamingo stood up, arms outstretched to the sides, as if embracing the world. "Is it too early to say this? In other words, the right opportunity will always come. Who will the throne fall into? The will of man, the trend of history, will guide the world towards peace." Fang. Chapter 349 Greatest Ambition. "Oh, you said that. Fire Fist Ace was caught by the Navy." Kaido stared at the big eyes of the lantern. "No, to be precise, he was caught by Blackbeard. He dedicated the Fire Fist to the Navy and got the title of Chiwahai." "Blackbeard? It's a traitor of the Whitebeard pirates. He killed the captain of the 4th Division, Thatch, and ran away." Jack held a phone bug. The cyan phone bug looked so small in his thick palm. "That white-bearded old man should be very angry. Let the Joker send me another batch of weapons. This time I must break the country of Wano." "Boss Kaido, something is wrong here. That guy Huang has gone away. I don't know where he went, and he has never been able to contact him. Also, that guy Shanks is not far away." "Shanks? Hum." 2 puffs of white smoke spewed out of Kaido's nostrils. Sky Yo-Yo woke up and saw a wooden ceiling. A dark pattern is evenly distributed on it. The slight shaking from under him made Ski understand that it was on a boat. The last picture he saw when he landed was of warships breaking through the waves on the sea. His hands and feet were not bound, which meant that he was not caught by the Navy. "Have you been rescued?" Ski wanted to get out of bed, but the weakness and pain in his body made him give up the idea. With a creak, the door opened. Akutagawa Huang walked in, and the moment Shiki woke up, he was aware of what he saw. "Mr. Ski, you're awake." He held a bowl of hot soup in his hand, which he had Caroline make specially. There are no cooks on Proverbs. Perhaps due to the influence of Enel, Milo only took the mechanical soldiers and the magic soldiers with him when he left. "Get enough fresh water and food ready, then take your fighters and go. Sailing is it's actually a journey." Then in the following days, all of them could only make a living by eating canned food and bread, and occasionally they could eat fish or squid caught from the sea to change their taste. Eat it raw, dipped in mustard and vinegar for a unique flavor. In fact, the most fundamental reason is that no one can cook. Originally, both Milo and Enel knew a little bit, but time can change everything. After so many years, some of the skills that they would have had been forgotten in the life of being served for a long time. After charring the squid a few times, they gave up trying. It can only be said that the life of the **** will make people degenerate. Anal is the king of Verslow, and Milo is the ruler of the sky. Some people help them deal with it. Why do they use their own hands? Later, after Caroline got on the boat, she could occasionally eat cooked food. But there were so many people on board that she couldn't be busy by herself, so the staple food was still canned food and bread. As the saying goes, from frugality to luxury is easy, and from luxury to frugality is difficult. Milo misses the days when he was fed delicious food by the young lady with skin as white as milk and smooth as silk on the empty island. But after going so far, I can only secretly cry with sadness and swear that I must bring a full support staff next time. Especially the chef, must not be missing. He was thinking of establishing a food team, and he had already thought of a name, so it was called the Firehead Army. It's Yu Huang. Shiji's eyes were a little gloomy, without the guile and cunning of the past, without the pride and ambition to conquer the world. Like a dying old man. Losing to Straw Hat Luffy was really a big blow to him. He is old, and this plan is his last chance. He knew that he did not have the time and strength to prepare for a new battle. The lion has lost his pride and is about to decay. Now that he is old and unable to conquer the world, there is no goal and direction in life. He didn't know where he was going, and he dedicated his entire life to his ambitions. Conquest and expansion are the whole of his life. What is left of the golden lion without ambition? It seems there is nothing left. Sky lay on the boat, aging in the pain of battle so he couldn't even get up. The blonde hair color is also not as bright and dazzling as when young, showing a dull yellow like withered grass. Shiji on the hospital bed, like the sun, is full of sadness and magnificence. A red sun is slowly setting, and it has generally sunk under the sea. The clouds near the sun are like burning flames, and the sky is dyed with a magnificent color. The sea seems to be burning, and the whole world is immersed in that gorgeous light and shadow. Well, it's me, Akutagawa replied. Neither of them are the talkative type. After saying this, the room fell into silence. Akutagawa's hair is also golden, bright and dazzling, like gold powder, reflecting the light under the light from the window. The blonde old man was lying on the boat with serious injuries, and a young man, also blonde, was holding hot soup beside the bed. As if a grandson was taking care of his seriously ill grandfather, it was warm. Of course, this has to ignore their illustrious reputation. You must know that the ferocity of these two guys is the highest in the entire sea. If the Navy saw this scene, it would definitely report it nervously. Then let Sengoku fall into tension and headaches. Huang, how far has your swordsmanship reached? Shike asked for no reason. I don't know. Among the people I know, Shanks and Hawkeye are stronger than me. Akutagawa shook his head, obviously not satisfied with his own strength. Do you have any goals? Target. Yes, goals, or ambitions. I want to restore my family name in Wano country, which is what our family has always wanted. I think I should do it. Wano country, that country is quite strong. Restoring the family name is it difficult? Kazuki Odin has actually contacted me. If I promise to be his retainer, he is willing to restore the name of the Akutagawa family, but I refused. I think it is better to capture Wano and then move the Akutagawa family here. Could be better. Quote. Gia ha 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 ha, wouldn't you like to be subservient to others? Sure enough, you are still so proud. It's hard to imagine that a man like you would follow that little bastard Anal. Skeel laughed. Anal, I owe him a favor and, his strength is worth following me. In his eyes, there is a great ambition. If you are a lion, Mr. Ski, a giant dragon lives in his heart. Although he always says that he has no ambitions, he just wants freedom. But isn't it the greatest ambition to want freedom that no one can restrain? Conquering the world is better than ever. Quote. Chapter 350. Stop, your thoughts are dangerous. To conquer the world, what you need is your own strong strength, huge power, and wisdom as deep as the sea. To be a king, you must have enough charm to make people convince and follow. Uniting a large number of people by his side has made him, but it is also his shackle. He will be influenced by various forces around him. The king must know how to choose and balance the interests of all parties under him. Recklessness will only cause his power to fall apart. Conquering the world, you have to take such a king's road. Enel wanted to act recklessly without any scruples. What he has to do is to attribute the great power to himself, and use his own power to make the whole world helpless. You seem to be very convinced of him. Shiki looked inexplicable. Of course, he has the power to convince me. Akutagawa Huang's tone was flat. However, his ambition isn't it possible. People always have limits, and no matter how strong they are, they can't completely escape this limitation. Sky suddenly thought of Baroric Redfield, the Lone Ranger of the One Piece era. So arrogant, so powerful, to keep pace with them alone. But he was eventually arrested by the Navy because he was only one person. I don't know, but Enel seems to have a lot of confidence in himself, confidence in breaking the limits of the human body. Moreover, he doesn't seem to be human, but a humanoid monster like Kaido, Akutagawa replied. What about you? Conquering Wano country shouldn't be your ambition, it should be said, it's just your responsibility as a member of the Akutagawa family. What about your own real ambition? Shiki asked. Ambition, why do you think so much? Just do what you like. Mr. Shiki, why do I feel like you are instigating me to break away from Enel and establish my own business? Akutagawa looked at Shiki calmly. There was no change in his expression, as if he had been fixed. He wears a samurai uniform, and he is enchanting in his heroic spirit. People who don't know him will probably regard him as a 3-0 girl. Jia ha 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 ha, you think too much. There was a hint of disappointment in Shiji's eyes. Akutagawa, under his teaching, inherited his swordsmanship and can be said to be his disciple. Although neither side has set this name, there is such a fact. Shiki knew that he had no hope of conquering the world, but Akutagawa was good enough years ago. He actually hoped that Huang could inherit his will and continue the lion's heart. After the laughter, the two looked at each other silently, only the motto was swayed by the air current, and the crunching sound of the wooden planks pressed against each other. Shiki spoke again. Huang, what do you think of this world? The world it's beautiful and magnificent. It's so big that people can't see all the scenery in their entire life, Akutagawa said. Have you ever wondered what it would feel like to hold it in your hand? Mr. Ski, tell Enel what you said. I have no interest in conquering the world. If you have nothing to do, you might as well follow us and see the scenery of the next era. Enel will show you a completely different world. Akutagawa Huang walked out, leaving Shiki to stare at the ceiling in a daze. Bang! The door was opened again, and Indigo rushed in. Boss Shiki, he stopped even performing pantomime, and shouted directly. Seeing this subordinate who never gave up on him, Shiji was suddenly moved. Aged and always sentimental, Shiki no longer thinks about brewing some conspiracy to conquer the world, and his heart is no longer so cold. He noticed something he didn't pay attention to in the past, a friendship. I'm sorry, I made you worry, Shiki said apologetically. Indigo blinked in disbelief. He pressed the back of his hand to Sky's forehead, a little hot. Ski boss, have you burned out your brain? Bastard, I'm doing well, Sky growled. The emotion that had just risen disappeared in an instant. Where's Scarado? It was hit by the island as it fell and died, Indigo replied. Is that so? Herring and Roy are fighting on the deck. Carter fell asleep on his stomach. Milo got a fashion magazine from Roy and was fascinated by it. The tempting pictures above made his blood boil. But these fashion actresses don't seem to have high looks. Tilda, he sighed involuntarily. Milo, what are you sighing for? Enel sat on the crossbar of the mast, dangling his legs. The quality of this magazine is not good, as there are no more beautiful women. Why are they not as good as that guy Huang? Milo's tone was filled with strong resentment. Hey boy, your thinking is very dangerous. When I was looking at the sexy photo album of women, I thought of Huang. You shouldn't. Enel gave me the look in your eyes. Bastard, I'm very normal. Dashin, who had recovered from his injuries, stood beside him, hesitating to speak. "Speak up." Milo glanced at him. "Actually, Lord God, we will never reject your will. In fact, I can too." Dashin twisted. PFF'd ha 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 ha. Herring rolls all over the floor laughing. PFF'd, even Lu Huo, who had always had a dead face, laughed out loud. Milo was as black as coal. Imagine how a big fat man with rosy lips, weighing 400 kilograms, with a body like Roshan, who moves and trembles with fat all over his body will feel like, Icon, to you. In contrast, Huang is as beautiful as a fairy. Milo quickly threw this dangerous thought out of his head, and then a thunderstorm sent Dashin back into the infirmary. Enel. Akutagawa went to the deck. New news from the New World. Kaido wants to attack Wano, but Shanks is lingering near Wano, and they are tied. Oh, has the Beast Pirates contacted you? Yes. Don't pay attention to them, there will soon be a war that will change the world pattern. There won't be much dynamic on the side of the beasts. The biggest changes are still in Whitebeard and the Navy headquarters. This war will determine the direction of the world. Ano stared at the sea of clouds. The country of Wano is not so easy to capture. Even the 100 beast pirates will pay a heavy price if they want to attack. After the plan here is successful, I will accompany you to the country of Wano. I want it too. Let's see what it would be like to be called the homeland of samurai. Quote. Akutagawa Huang nodded. I see. Chapter 341 Hawkins. Chambord Islands, in a restaurant. Ano ordered a table full of grilled meat, and the table next to him was piled with plates of ayu. A pink cat shoves plates of food into its mouth. Behind it stood two waiters, sweating profusely. They're specialized in dealing with Carter's plate after he's done eating. But even with two people, Carter couldn't keep up with the efficiency of his meals, and the plates on the table were stacked at a slow pace. Another 10 people kept serving food to its table, running all the way, with a speed comparable to the champion of the 100-meter sprint. There is only one person and one cat in the restaurant who are customers, and they have reserved the room. The hotel didn't have the energy to greet other customers. All the waiters were already on stage, and even the person in charge of collecting the bills was called over to help. In the kitchen, a group of chefs moved very fast, shaking like a pile driver at an ultra-high frequency, and afterimages quickly appeared. For the sake of efficiency, they replaced the pot with the largest size. Ano has been here for some time, and he is waiting for the summoning order from the world government. This is the island closest to the Navy headquarters. Once a war begins, Carter and others can reach Malinford as quickly as possible. During this time, supernovae also landed on the islands one after another. Ah, Ano sighed as he looked at a couple walking by the window with a glass of wine in his hand. Carter finally stopped eating, raised his head to look at Enel, and said, Visi, what's the matter with you? Just being fed a wave of dog food. I'm not in a good mood. Enel took a sip of wine. A life is lonely as snow. Don't you have a white star? Carter looked like you don't lie. Shiroi, I haven't seen her for a long time. I will take time to visit after a while. She should have grown into a beautiful woman, right? Enel showed some anticipation. If I remember correctly, she should be 14 by now. Carter made a judgment on Enel's orientation, a foreigner plus lolicon. Speaking of White Star, have you killed Vanderdeeken? No, the sea beast troop has been searching for his traces all the time, but ordinary sea beasts can't deal with him. After several contacts, he lost a few brothers, and he finally ran away. Forget it. When you go to Fishman Island next time, bring Milo with you too. He has lived long enough. Anel's eyes were full of murderous intent. Boom. Suddenly the door of the hotel was kicked open, and a man in red clothes with braided hair walked in. Behind him is a slender young man with flowing blonde hair, 6 vertical lines tattooed on his forehead, and armor on his left arm. Black trousers are paired with a white blouse with open ruffles. The lines on his face are vertical and long, and the melancholy look on his face will make others feel a touch of fear when looking down at people. He was one of the 11 supernovas who landed on the island, Basil Hawkins, with a bounty of 295 million Baileys. Behind them were a group of people in dark blue cloaks, whose faces were covered by wide hats, making it difficult to see their faces. "Finally found a restaurant with seats," said the big man in red. Because of the large-scale gathering of pirates, the business of restaurants on the Chambord Islands is extremely hot, and almost all of them are full. They have gone to 3 restaurants today, all of which are full, and this is the 4th one. If it wasn't for their captain saying that killing life today would be a hindrance to his fortune, he would have long ago started killing and clearing the scene. "Hold, I am sorry, there are reserved guests here, we can't receive the rest of the guests today, I am really sorry." The restaurant owner hurried over to apologize. Isn't there still so many places here, why can't we come in?" "Are you kidding us?" The big man in red pulled out his knife. After walking for so long, he was full of anger. Pirates are generally violent, and it is normal to draw a knife when they disagree. I am so sorry, those 2 customers are so good. Everyone in the store has used them, but it's still not enough." After speaking, he glanced at Carter and Enel. The big man in red also followed his line of sight, and then the corners of his eyes twitched. "What's the matter with this cat? You don't need to chew when you eat, this is simply a rice bucket. Just let them wait and serve us food first," said the big man in red. But it's very embarrassing for us." The restaurant owner looked embarrassed. "Make it clear, we're not discussing with you." A snow-white steel knife was placed around his neck, and the terrifying chill could still be felt in the summer heat, and the restaurant owner shivered. "Stop." Hawkins stretched out his hand to block the pirate. "Captain, I just wanted to scare him." But Hawkins was no longer in the mood to pay attention to him at this time, staring solemnly at the card in his hand. Fortune has changed. He took out a set of magic cards and placed them in front of him with a special pattern. The air seemed to freeze into a table, and the cards were suspended in midair, as if they were firmly placed on a certain plane. Battle, defeat rate, 100%. Escape, success rate, 0%. Negotiation, avoidance rate, 90%. The death rate today is 0%. Although it was predicted from the card that he was not dead today, which made him relieved, the situation was still grim. With cold sweat on his face, Hawkins stared at Enel, thinking about who the man was in front of him. Able to get here, and ranked 3rd in the bounty of all supernovas, he also met the lieutenant general during the journey. But no one has ever brought him so much pressure. 100% failure rate in battle, 100% failure rate in escape, that is to say, if the person wants to kill him, he can only be slaughtered. In front of him, he was as powerless as a child. Hawkins has not felt this sense of powerlessness for a long time, and the lieutenant general has never brought him such a big threat. So what kind of strength is this person in front of him? "General." The black-haired man just sat there casually, and Hawkins looked at him as if he was facing the abyss. Even the naive fat cat next to him brought him a fatal danger. "Huh, who is it?" Enel turned his head and looked at Hawkins. "Didn't I say that we have a reserved room here?" "Pirates." Enel felt that this man looked familiar. He has been paying attention to the dynamics of the New World recently, and the situation of these supernovae has been ignored. Counting the time, Luffy is about to come over. Enel remembered the characters in the original book and asked tentatively, "Magician, Hawkins?" Although the appearance rate of these supernovas in the original book is not high, the episode that came out for the first time is full of force, and he still has a little impression. 352nd Charles rose. "General, rule out. 4 emperors, excluded." The next thing that comes to mind is Chihuahua, and the top combat power they know on the sea is only a little bit. "You are the Black Coffin, Enel." Hawkins said his guess. You know me, I'm getting old before you know it watching you newcomers run to the sea. I think I should sit in front of the throne quietly and be a beautiful man, and then like the end the boss is waiting for you to come and challenge." Enel felt that this seemed to be a good idea. But the premise is that he has to have the strength as the ultimate boss. He seems to be unqualified now and still needs to work hard. Moreover, the Demon King is a high-risk profession, and I don't know how many brave people want to use his head to prove themselves to the world. Anal felt that he needed to upgrade a few more levels, otherwise it would be bad if the car overturned. Hawkins complained in his heart, "How old are you? I'm not as old as I am. If you're old, then I'm too old to enter the coffin." Anal went to sea at the age of 7, stayed in the North Sea for a year and a half, then went to the Great Sea Route, and practiced on Black Moon Island for 6.5 years. 3 years old, and Hawkins is now 29 years old, an uncle in his 30s. Of course, Hawkins would not show his inner activity. Judging from the time he entered the pirate line, he was indeed a novice in front of Neil. Everyone is a senior pirate with more than 10 years of experience. And the most important thing is that he has a big fist. You are a boss, whatever you say is what you say. I just nod my head obediently. I'll fuck you when I'm too arrogant in the future. Judging the situation is also one of the rules of survival in this sea. Hey Hawkins, do you want to join us? Enel reached out and invited. I feel free to be captain, Hawkins replied, who declined. Oh so, that's a pity, your abilities are quite interesting. If you think it's too difficult to get along in the new world, you can come to me. Enel and Carter walked out. Carter has just received the news that the herring has been caught. Mermaid Island is an ally of Verslow, and within the reach of Enel's influence, the mermaid dealers will be attacked by him. Except for some merfolk who have committed felonies and have been reduced to slaves, it is rare for mermen to show up at auctions. Ordinary auction houses would not dare to put mermaids on them as commodities, but St. Charles Ross seemed to have a soft spot for raising mermaids, so he bought an auction house specifically to buy mermaids for himself. Although catching mermaids is very risky, driven by huge profits, some people still choose to take risks. Anel has a good relationship with Saint Muse Garrod. He has a lot of power in the Chambord Islands, but he can't take care of every corner. After all, the forces here are chaotic and intricate, and from time to time there will be Tianlong people coming down to relax. The naval headquarters was nearby, and it was impossible for Anel to bring the entire Chambord archipelago under his command. Being able to control the number 1 area and the surrounding waters is already quite good. By the way, how did Herring get caught? She doesn't seem to be weak, right? I remember that she is domineering, and it is not a problem to deal with ordinary supernovas. Why is it so easy to get caught? Could it be that all the bounty hunters on this island come here? Is it a level? Enel asked. Carter rolled his eyes. How would I know? It's just that my subordinates reported that a cyan-haired mermaid was sent to auction number 6. That's the place of that fat man from Charles Ross. Carter has been unhappy with Charles Rose, and Carter has always been in charge of the Chambord Islands under Anel. Although it doesn't usually take care of things, it also knows that the fat man will not deal with them. Inform Milo and let him deal with it. I don't want to lose the identity of Shichibukai until the war between Whitebeard and the Navy headquarters is over. Anel suddenly found that the crowd in front of them all knelt down and lined up on both sides of the street. A fat man sat on a collared slave and walked slowly. He was wearing an astronaut-like mask, his long snot hanging from his nostrils, and he sucked it back hard. The brown-haired slave had blood on his knees, and every step forward was a great torture for him. Severe pain came from his knees and palms, and he kept gasping for breath, as if he would die at any moment. Really, human slaves are not easy to use. Next time I will buy a murloc. It's all to blame for that bastard, Saint Muse Garrod. If it wasn't for his faction to speak for the mermen, murloc slaves wouldn't be so difficult to get. St. Charles Ross gave the slave under him a dissatisfied look. There is news from the auction house that I have received a mermaid today. It is a young and beautiful female mermaid. I called to ask you what to do next. Sell it or keep it. Of course I'll stay young and beautiful female mermaid. It's been a few years since I've seen it. I'm so happy. Suddenly, there was a bump under him, and the slave did not stabilize and almost fell. Charles Rose bit his tongue. Bastard, bastard, bastard. He kept kicking the slave's head and cursing. Damn pariah, because of your negligence, the great St. Charles was injured. I bit my tongue. Asshole, what are you still doing? Climb, I can't wait to see that one mermaid. Under his persecution, the slave could only endure the pain and move forward. His eyes were blank, his face was numb, and he didn't even have the courage to resist. A figure stood in front of him. Charles Rose raised his head and looked at Enel. Who are you? Why don't you kneel when you see the great dragon man? Then he saw Carter beside Enel. This cat is not bad. It looks more powerful than that bastard orange cat of St. Muse Garrod. Is this your pet? Quick, I order you to put him. Give it to me. Enel looked at St. Charles with the eyes of a fool. Most of the Tianlong people's IQ is really worrying. It's almost like being raised as a pig. Standing respectfully at the side of St. Charles Rose, the man in the black suit took a few steps forward and vaguely protected him behind him. St. Charles Rose, this guy is Enel, the one who mixed with St. Muse Garrod. Oh, I remembered, it's you're the king, right? But the dragon people are gods. Do you want to be disrespectful to gods? Speaking of which, Muse Garrod is really annoying. It's unpleasant. You're also very unpleasant. Kill him for me. Charles Ross yelled before the guard could finish speaking. The guard's face darkened. Isn't this a scam? Just listen carefully, my master. This is Chihuahua. There are some truths that cannot be told to pirates. But he didn't dare to show the slightest dissatisfaction, and could only bite the bullet. As a servant, he only needs to faithfully carry out his master's orders. If a slight hesitation makes Charles Ross dissatisfied, it is himself who will die. But the consequences of daring to bite the bullet are also death. A claw covered with pitch-black scales pierced through his chest, and blood splashed, dyeing a large area of soil red. A heart beat in Enel's hand, and as he squeezed it hard, it turned into pieces of meat. Chapter 353. Enel is now not the slave trader who killed Tianlong people 8 years ago, but he has to silence the whole audience, worried that they will find trouble for him to prevent him from becoming a small pirate in the Chihuahua. He is now a force to be reckoned with in the entire sea, and he is a powerful character. If the 4 emperors fall, he will be the one with the most hope, and maybe a black beard will be added. The authority of the Tianlong people is maintained by the voluntary dispatch of the generals. Generally, as long as nothing too serious happens, the hidden power of the Tianlong people themselves will not be easily dispatched. What's more, Enel just killed a servant. Did he directly attack the Tianlong people? As for the generals, they want to come over, come as soon as they come. Who is afraid of whom? He was no longer cowardly. The current situation is similar to the original plot. As long as it does not change too much, it should also follow the plot line. Maintaining this plot now is the easiest way for Enel to get huge benefits. But pressing him, he will not be limited to maintaining the plot. If the Navy really wanted to deal with him at this time, it would be a big deal to join forces with Katmiro Akutagawa to destroy a general before Whitebeard attacked. Ah! Charles Ross let out a scream like a pig. You untouchable bastard, how dare you disobey me and you want to live? Bastard, I have to make you look good. Oops, that person dares to anger the Tianlong people. Hey, isn't he crazy? The crowd kneeling on both sides whispered. The one who got closer buried his head lower, for fear of being angered by the furious Tianlong people. Hey, isn't it? How dare someone treat the Tianlong people like this? The strange Munkaruki had a smile on his face, watching the development of the situation from a corner. Damn that madman, does he want to recruit the general? Damn it, can't bear it. Don't implicate us in courting death yourself. When we come to the New World, I definitely want him to look good. A pink-haired, the female pirate in the blue hat looked out from the window of the hotel. She gritted her teeth, obviously annoyed by Enel's actions. Hey, who is this guy? One of the recent supernovas. She asked the person next to her. I don't know, I don't remember it at all. Maybe it's some unremarkable little pirate. A man with an X on his chin and chest, a hooked nose, an eye patch and a medieval swordsman hat stands on a roof overlooking the street. Fallen Navy, X Drake. With a bounty of 222 million Baileys, it ranks 4th among the supernovae gathered on the island. That guy, if I remember correctly, it should be Chiwahai, the black coffin anal. How could there be a conflict with the Tianlong people? He had a solemn expression on his face. As an original Navy colonel, his intelligence work was better than that of ordinary pirates, and Enel's information was also within his intelligence scope. After all, if you want to go to the New World, Doflamingo, Jinbei, and Enel, the three seas that monopolize the undersea waterway, cannot get around. Give me death. Charles Ross drew his gun and fired a shot at Enel. Boom. The bullet focused on Enel's forehead, then bounced off, brushing Charles Ross's hair. Snapped. His mask was broken. Ah, how dare you do something to me? Although the fact was obvious, Enel was not afraid of them, but he still felt unbelievable. Stupid pig. Enel glared at him, murderous intent rushing towards him with a terrifying momentum. Ah, Dad, someone is trying to kill me, come and help me. Charles Ross screamed and fell from the slave's grief, then ran towards his auction house, he knowing that his father is there. He stood up and fell again, his face rubbed against the ground, a blood mark was drawn, his nose was crooked, and the nosebleed was gushing out like a spring. It hurts me. Charles Ross got up and stumbled away with tears in his eyes. Enel shrugged. Cat, you see that? I didn't do anything to him, I just dealt with a servant who didn't know how to live or die. Oh, I see, you didn't do it. Carter echoed. Ha ha ha, Miss Mermaid, you are so careless. You ran ashore so blatantly. Come here, Uncle treats you to a lollipop. Said a vulgar-looking man with a knife in his hand and a height of 3 meters. The people behind him also burst into laughter. They were bounty hunters and part-time slave traders. If the pirates can be caught alive, they can be sold at the auction house for a higher price than the bounty. At this time, a large number of pirates have gathered on the island. Among them, there are even 11 supernovas with a bounty of over 100 million. For them, this is the best hunting season. When they were looking for prey, they saw herring. Such a young and beautiful female mermaid can be sold for over 100 million if you are lucky. Although there is a possibility of being hunted down by the Black Triangle Chamber of Commerce, but if this vote is made, who can find them? The sea is so big that no one can do anything about them if they hide in any corner. And taking huge risks to deal with those supernovae, the risk of catching a lone merman is significantly less. Ah, you treat me like a child. You want to buy me for just a few lollipops. Why don't you have a few boxes? Herring looked at them with the look of a beggar. The point isn't the amount of sugar. Looking at how poor you are, I don't think you have enough money to buy candy. Tell you, I also have requirements to be my subordinates. I won't accept all cats and dogs as my little brother. Look. The faces of these bounty hunters couldn't hang up. You misunderstood something, right? Don't be scared to cry then. Then after the fight, they were knocked to the ground without any resistance. In Liu Huo's eyes, herring is a War 5 scum, which is because Liu Huo uses himself and Milo as a reference. She has no pressure at all to clean up the usual scumbags. She knows the domineering and the mermaid karate, plus the special shells of the Sky Island. It is enough to play against those supernovas at the bottom. Sister, spare your life. The bounty hunter knelt down and surrendered shamefully. Herring nodded and patted his shoulder. She and Liu Huo are missing a few coolies for shopping. Hey Liu Huo, is Herring by your side? Milo contacted Liu Huo after receiving Carter's call. You mean Herring? She is having a good time now. Liu Huo glanced at Herring, who was educating a temporarily recruited younger brother not far away, and replied, What? Is there something wrong? Oh, is that so? John Mao said it received a report that the mermaid with blue hair was taken away. Mistaking it for Herring, she'll be fine. Then, with a wow, the Herring and the bounty hunters were gone. Flowing fire. Chapter 354, The Order of the King's 7 Wuhai Convocation. Damn, mentally retarded, Liu Huo scolded in a low voice, not knowing who he was talking about. You guys have fun. As for the mermaid that was taken away, things seem to be interesting. Milo smiled, feeling rather gloating. Kemi, what will you guys choose to do with straw hats? facing the world's aristocratic heavenly dragons. Then he hung up the phone. Putting away the drooping phone bug, Lu Huo found the herring with his knowledge, and followed. In front of her, the group of bounty hunters laughed loudly. Ha ha ha, you can make a fortune now. I didn't expect that mermaid to be so careless. This kind of kid is really easy to deceive. We let her down after begging for mercy a little. Hey, I'm still better. A big man in a gray shirt with no buttons and a stubble face boasted about his sack covering the herring. Shut up, you guys don't expose it. That's more than 100 million Baileys. The leading wretched man made a booing gesture. Mary Joa, Sengoku was fascinated by the map of Malenford. The world government's disposal of Fire Fist Ace has come down. The 5 old stars decided to execute the execution publicly, in order to attract the Whitebeard pirates to come. Then concentrate on the crusade against the uncrowned king of the sea. The crane is also on the side of the staff. It's almost time to calculate, call the king in advance and call the Chiwahai. Well, the combat power of Chiwahai can't be ignored, but Hexia Jinping may not be on our side. It is difficult to determine the attitude of the guy who goes his own way. As for the black coffin Enel, Sengoku said half-paused. Enel always gave him a strange feeling. Do you think there is something wrong with him too? Warring states. Lieutenant General Crane said. He upsets me. I also don't trust that man. Since 8 years ago, he has been dormant, silently developing his own power, obtaining a lot of money from the black market, and then investing this money in the construction of Verslau. The people there are generally wealthier for the people of Verslau. He is a wise king. The crane looked serious. Compared to the general royal family who squeezes the people to satisfy their own desires, he is undoubtedly more in line with the expectations of the people. The wealth of Verslau is based on unscrupulously stealing from other countries through illegal channels. From an angle, it's okay for him to do so. From the point of view, he seems to be doing this kind of piracy for the sake of the country. But I always feel a little incongruous, but there is no evidence. I can only say my intuition. Ha ha ha, Xiaohei, do you feel this way too? Garp walked in and interjected. Warring states, get ready. I always have a hunch that this kid will do something big this time. He can't figure it out. It will become the biggest variable in this war. The intuition of people in the pirate world is so unreasonable. Just like when Luffy was fighting with Mr. 3, he found the deity from many candlemen all at once by intuition. Sometimes no matter how good the disguise is, it can't hold back people's good intuition. It's a world that can't be messed around with purely rational thinking. If you analyze the problem completely according to logical thinking, and you believe too much in the conclusions drawn from it, you will definitely be pitted. Can you use normal human logic to deduce a bunch of unreasonable guys? Okay, let me contact Kibukai Warring States. Let's put all the pacifists in this time. That kind of weapon is already close to perfection, and this battle is the most suitable stage for it to appear. Quote. Crane Chiwahai, don't contact Jinping for now. If he says, let Qingzi go there in person. I see. On the sea, a boat drifts with the waves. Candles were lit on both sides of the boat, with a faint green flame like a ghost fire. The mast is shaped like a cross, and the sails are black. The boat is shaped like a coffin. There was a large chair at the front of the boat, and a man with short black hair and a short beard sat. He was wearing a black top hat with white fluff, a burgundy patterned top and a black bottom vest, and white trousers. A huge cross-shaped black long knife was behind his back, and the whole person was like a sharp blade, calm and sharp. He was holding a newspaper in his hand, a picture of Akutagawa holding a golden lion. Staring at the photo with eagle-like eyes, I don't know what I'm thinking. Huang Yu changed a sword. The phone worm rang, and he ended up with a phone worm. Crane's voice came from inside. Chiwahai's summoning order, is the opponent Whitebeard? I know, I will go. After he finished speaking, he hung up the phone. Wah 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 wah, Crane, you old woman isn't dead yet. Doflamingo said in greeting. You scum on the sea hasn't been wiped out yet. How can I enter the coffin? It's an old headache, so what do you have to do with me? We decided to jointly execute the captain of the 2nd Division of the Whitebeard Pirates, Fire Fist Ace, in Malanford. If they don't come, they will be disqualified from Shichibukai. Hey, are you serious? This is a big deal. That legendary monster won't stand by. Is your navy serious? Seriously, of course, otherwise I wouldn't want to say a word to scumbags like you. Tisk, the mouth is really poisonous. Old Lady Crane, of course I won't miss such an interesting thing. Hey, isn't this Granny Crane? Are you still strong? At such an old age, shouldn't you also retire? Let the sea teach young people like us. Don't worry, I will do well. Aniel ran the train with his mouth full. Crane murmured in his heart, you will do a good job, which makes it even more worrying. She really didn't want to talk to Aniel, the mean-spirited guy. Although it seemed that every word was for your own good, it sounded weird. Mother Crane, I said that your navy is too inhumane. Veterans have struggled all their lives, so they should also think about Chingfu. Look at my Varith, there are no soldiers over 40 years old. They are all too 30-year-old boy. Why don't you change jobs and come to my side? The treatment is absolutely good. 5 insurances and 1 housing fund, and the pension will definitely be enough. If you have this idea, you can also add Warring States and Zephyr. By the way, don't call Carp, I'm afraid he demolished my palace. Anal kept saying sternly. Because of Garp, he was always blocking the navy, even if it is to play tricks and make the other party feel unhappy. I just like the way you don't like me and can't kill me. Pi was very happy now. Crane's face was full of black lines. Stop talking nonsense. Fire Fist Ace will be executed, and you will be forced to summon your king to go to the Chiwahai. Oh, this is a very important event. I must be there. Pirates are so fierce. I'm a little panicked, but for love and justice, for world peace. Before he could finish speaking, the Crane had already hung up the phone. Crane just wanted to say MMP, for love and justice. For world peace. Do you have any points in your heart? Pirates are murderous, will you panic? Who made a wave of white beards in the New World? Hey, that's how it hangs. Anal put away the funny look, looked at the sky, and laughed softly. Ahaha, is it finally going to start, the long-awaited storm? Chapter 355, the correct opening posture of herring. In the entire Chambord archipelago, the best auction venues are number 1 and number 16. The former is a force under Doflamingo, and Anal also participated. The latter is the property purchased by St. Charles Rose of the Heavenly Dragon. He just wanted to find a place to collect merman. Otherwise, the traffickers would not dare to sell the mermaid, and the rest of the ordinary auction houses would not dare to provoke the 2 underground giants. Trafalgar Law and Eustace Kidd were sitting in an inconspicuous corner, watching the auction go on to pass the time. Charles Rose escaped to the auction house at the 16 GR, and as soon as he entered he shouted, "Dad, Dad!" His cry caught everyone's attention. Ordinary people lowered their heads and dared not look at him. Some beautiful women hid in the arms of their lovers, for fear of being spotted by Charles Ross. Lau glanced at him. Oh, dragon people, how could such a tragic situation happen? Would anyone dare to take the risk of attracting a general and attack him? It's so ugly, the scum. Kidd grinned silently, revealing 2 rows of white teeth. Charles, calm down, what's the decency to shout? Saint Roswald sat on the dedicated seat of the Heavenly Dragon people. His face was flat, and he didn't turn his head. Help, someone is going to kill me. What? Charles Ross, who is it? Who beat you up like this? He couldn't keep his composure when he saw the blood-stained face of Charles Ross. Brother Charles Ross, even Lord Father has not beaten him. Shalulia looked panicked. Damn, which pariah? How dare you attack the noble Tianlong people? It's that Charles Ross suddenly didn't know who the murderous terrifying guy just now was. That's the human king who always hangs out with Muse Garrett, the one with black hair and blue stripes at the corners of his eyes. It's terrible. Dad, you must avenge me. Charles Rose sobbed. The king who mingled with Muse Garrett, is it anal? How can a guy who doesn't know his honor become a king? I'll contact the Navy headquarters. Sengoku was thinking about the formation to deal with Whitebeard, and he had a bad feeling when he heard the people under his command say that Roswald, the heavenly dragon, was calling. It's not a good thing for these mobs to call. After speaking with Saint Roswald, Sengoku had a headache. What is this? I just issued the summoning order for the king's Chiwahai, and we are about to face Whitebeard together, so this is what happened. This is to ask the navy to confront a Shichibukai before confronting Whitebeard. Instead of dispatching the general immediately, he sent someone to investigate what happened. He glared at him when he learned that Anil didn't take any action against the Tianlong people, but just passed by. Sengoku breathed a sigh of relief. Their navy understood the conflict between Anil and Whitebeard. Anil gave them the illusion that in order to bring down Whitebeard, he even temporarily put down his hatred and joined forces with Blackbeard. Since the conflict is so big, it is estimated that there will be no soy sauce on the battlefield. In this war, their navy needs the power of Chiwahai. If you really want to move him, you have to wait until after the war. And it's just a glance, as long as you don't do it directly, according to Anil's status, it's not a big problem. As for Charles Ross's injury, who can blame him for not walking steadily? The warring states did not want to waste precious combat power for such trivial matters. If Ace is really rescued by Whitebeard, and if the navy makes a joke about MI, then the situation will really get out of control. I'm afraid there will be a wave of going to sea even bigger than when Roger was just executed. Ahahaha, Garp laughed heartlessly. That kid occasionally does a few things that are pleasing to the eye. If I want to say, those Tianlong people should exercise more, they are all fat. Like a pig. Cap, shut up for me, don't say it. Sengoku expressed his strong resentment that Carp was so leisurely and messed up. Oh, I know, I just thought about it in my heart, just pretend I didn't say it. Ha 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 ha, Carp scratched his head, looking innocent. By the way, we received a mermaid, right? Charles Ross turned his attention elsewhere after learning that the Navy headquarters already knew the news. He thought that Anil must be finished this time, completely unaware that Sengoku was just perfunctory to them. Yes, according to your request from St. Charles, the mermaid is not for sale this time, and is now being raised in a water tank. The purchase fee for the mermaid this time is... Don't mention this to me. It doesn't matter how much you talk, take me there. I can't help going to see the mermaid now. Charles Ross has received simple treatment, and his injury is not serious, just scratched the skin a bit. A staff member in a clown-like pattern suddenly walked over. Oldman, the person in charge of the auction house, listened to him, and then showed a look of joy. Good news, His Royal Highness Charles Ross just got the news that another mermaid lady has been sent to the auction. Today is really good luck. Oldman exaggerated. Oh that's really good. Charles Ross beamed with joy. Charles, you're spending money again. Is one merman soon enough? Just sell the other one, said Saint Roswald. Father, I want to see the two of them chasing around in the fish tank. The loser will be thrown into the pool where the piranhas are raised. Charles Ross looked expectantly. In the backstage of the auction where the slaves were collared, Herring looked curiously at the iron gray room. The light is dim and depressing. Hee, Miss Mermaid, although I'm a little sorry for you, but in order to play happily for the rest of our lives in the future, please cooperate obediently. Otherwise we can't guarantee your personal safety. The part-time slave trader's bounty hunter showed a gloomy smile. Well, thank you for leading me. My compatriot should be here too, right? I heard that there is only one auction house that dares to accept mermaids. Huh, the bounty hunters suddenly felt that something was wrong. Since your mission has been completed, then go to die. Herring eyes narrowed into crescent-shaped eyes, revealing a pure and flawless smile. Her lips turned higher and higher, grinning all the way to the base of her ears. The 2 rows of white teeth gleamed coldly, and together with that big bloody mouth, it made people shudder. Monster. The leading wretched man subconsciously raised his knife and slashed. Zung. The heavy sword was bitten by the herring, and a crack spread. The blade snapped in two from where she bit it. You, what the hell are you? I'm a mermaid, a throwback megalodon-type mermaid. Chapter 356 Luffy, you are beautiful. Have you had enough, stupid fish? Lu Huo walked in, holding a guard who wanted to stop her from entering. The hapless bastard had only one breath left. Lu Huo, I'm not here to play, I want to rescue my compatriots. We mermaids have always been discriminated against by humans and are in a disadvantageous position. All we can do is to unite. Showing sadness. Although Lord Anil has done a lot for us, at least in his country, mermaids can get the same rights as humans, but the land that can accept us after all, there are still too few. This time, the Tianlong people may be angered. Maybe there will be a general who will come to fight. I don't want to cause trouble for you, so I will do it myself, don't interfere. Lu Huo pulled Herring into his arms and rubbed her hair. We are friends, Milo is not a coward anyway. You have cheated him once or twice, it's okay to come back a few more times. Quote. Tears flashed in Herring's eyes. I'm talking like a pig teammate. Lu Huo rolled his eyes, making you look like you're not a pig teammate. When they found Kemi, Charles Rose was pulling her out by the chains. Smelly mermaid, come here quickly, don't be slow, kneel down, don't you know how the pariahs should face God? No, you are a stinky fish that is worse than pariahs. Kemi. Herring was about to start when a loud roar came from the sky. Kemi. Huh, everyone looked at the sky in unison, and a flying fish crashed in. Luffy stood up from the dust. Because the target range this time was much smaller, almost all of them arrived at the first time. Except for a certain Sanji who was sitting on a motorcycle barrow and was driving slowly. He wished that he could fly directly to Kemi, but the cow just couldn't walk fast. Bastard, can't you be faster? Sanji kicked Debaloo in the head. Do you say I'm a handsome guy? Debaloo's ears didn't seem to work well. Bastard, how narcissistic are you? When I think of Miss Kemi being tortured by a slave owner, I can't help myself with anger. Sanji's eyes seemed to burst into flames. Charles Ross wanted to shoot Luffy with a gun. Luffy doesn't care about the identity of the opponent. If you hit me, I will hit back. He punched him from the backstage of the auction house into the venue. Before Charles Rose fell into a coma, there was only one thought in his mind. When did the pariahs have such courage? Do you dare to do it yourself? Looking at Charles Ross, who was knocked out, Kid sweated coldly on his forehead. Hey, this is crazy, who did it? Luo put his hands on the back of the chair, sitting very casually. His eyes were fixed on the black hole, without blinking, as if he wanted to see the face of the man who dared to resist the Tianlong people. Saint Roswald felt that the insults he suffered today were more than the past 10 years combined. Since the Fisher Tiger incident, this is the biggest provocation their dragons have suffered. Bastard, why isn't the Admiral here yet? Hurry up and remind me. Let them solve the problem here first, let's put Ainir's business aside for now. Luffy walked out of the big hole that Charles Ross knocked out step by step. He lowered his straw hat and shouted, My name is Luffy, I'm the man who wants to become the Pirate King. Herring. She frantically complained in her heart, this man, is there something wrong with his brain? It's time to run away, right? What do you mean by going up and shouting? This is too showy, isn't it? The crew members of the Straw Hat Pirates who were standing at the gate of the auction house looked helpless. Now that they have rescued someone, why did they come out? Hurry up and sneak away from behind. Actually, Luffy just thinks it's more handsome to shout like that. Well done. Yo Zoro, Nami, you are here too. Ahahaha, it's so real. I rescued Kemi. Luffy greeted them stupidly. Nami covered her face, looking like I didn't know this guy. That it's the Straw Hat Luffy with a bounty of 350 million Bailey. The supernova with the first bounty. Because Anil squeezed out Moria's Shichibukai position, there is no need for the world government to hide Luffy's record. Mariah has been living in the Devil's Triangle, and he hasn't done anything major, and the bounty has remained at the level of 320 million Baileys and has never risen. And for Luffy, who defeated Mariah, the bounty became 350 million Baileys. It is the one with the highest bounty among the supernovae gathered on this island. Those ordinary customers have all run away when they see that the situation is not good, leaving only the pirates and the guards of the auction house. Luffy, why are you standing still? Now that everyone has been rescued, run away. Seeing Luffy's stupid appearance, Nami finally couldn't help but remind her. Oh, yes, it's time to run away, we're leaving. Luffy shouted, pulling Kemi and rushing out of the field. Stop them for me, Roswald Saint shouted angrily. The guards surrounded the Straw Hat gang. Get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. Herring kicked the guards away and rushed to the middle of the Straw Hat gang. Kimmy, long time no see. You're Herring, why are you here too? Could it be that you were caught too? Kimmy's face changed greatly. Idiot, how sluggish are you? Wasn't I by your side when that Straw Hat guy rushed in? Herring jumped up and gave her a head. The Straw Hats thought Herring was a little familiar. But I'm not sure, because the mermaid who was supposed to be in the sky suddenly came to the Chambord Islands and was met by them by chance, which is a bit incredible. Huh, Kemi's eyes almost popped out in surprise. Why, is that your acquaintance? Lu Huo also followed. Ah, Kemi, she is my friend. It really surprised me, she was the one who was caught, that's right. Don't be too surprised that this guy who is often stunned has been caught. Herring laughed very happily. Yes, it's you. Usopp retreated far away, hiding behind Luffy, as if he had seen something terrible. Why are you here? Nami screamed. Chopper also looked alert. Ah, what's wrong? What's wrong with you all? Luffy looked blank. Frankie had the same expression. When encountering the fire, Luffy, Zoro and Robin went to the forest, so they did not meet her. And Frankie and Brook, who were not on board at that time. This guy is one of the 4 priests of the Sky Island. Chapter 357, Yellow Monkey Dispatched. Oh, is that so? Luffy looked at Lu Huo blankly. Is she also the subordinate of that god? Luffy, don't underestimate him, she's terrifyingly strong. It's not at the same level as the guy with goggles that I met at the beginning. Nami said. So what? Are we not enemies now? Luffy lowered his straw hat. Thinking of Milo, he felt a heavy pressure. That kind of enormous pressure that is like facing Admiral Aokiji, no matter how much resistance is futile. We should withdraw, it will be bad when the university is in the future. It's almost time for us to go, and it would be dangerous to stay any longer. Kid stood up. When passing by Luo, he said, do you still want to wait here until the general arrives? No, I'm just too surprised, I just want to see the follow-up. But it's almost the same. If you meet a general, it will really be over. When it comes to generals, no one is easy. Hurry up and stop them, don't let them run away. Under the pressure of Saint Roswald, the guards rushed forward without fear of death. There. The towering fire pillar turned into a long dragon, clearing the surrounding enemies. Lu Huo's movements were crisp and neat, and all the guards who approached her had their necks twisted. The herring had a big mouth and nodded all the way, both the armor and the spear were bitten into pieces. The guards were hesitant to go forward when they saw that the opponent was so terrifying. Hey you bastards, why don't you come soon? Do you want to die? Saint Roswald scowled, and you untouchables, it seems that you are planning to resist to the end. An eyesore. Lu Huo threw a bomb cloud over. Boom. The violent explosion stunned Saint Roswald and Zaluria Palace, scorching black. Lu Huo, as a Bika who has just arrived in Qinghai, doesn't know much about the authority of the Tianlong people even if she understands it thoroughly. According to her character who doesn't like to compare and do whatever she doesn't like, she won't be able to make a move. Hesitate. When Ainil first went to Pika, she was directly pressed to the ground by her. This time it was clean, and those guards were also scared of being beaten. They resolutely stabbed themselves and lay on the ground pretending to be dead. Anyway, the Tianlong people fainted. Haven't you seen your opponent so fierce? It's deadly to start with tricks, and it's enough to show that you have struggled, desperately, with a slight or no serious injury. Lu Huo looked at their actions and pouted in disdain, a bunch of trash. Let's go, Herring, if you meet a general, it will still be a little troublesome. Lu Huo said. Oh, Herring in a daze came back to her senses and followed. There are probably a lot of navies out there, don't worry, I will help you all clean up. Lu Huo waved his hand. Huh, Luffy, Kid, and Law glared at them at the same time. It's none of your business, I'm enough alone. Luffy said. Kid, while I went, I said that it would be fine to leave it to me. Luo said with a displeased face. Don't order me, or you will be cut off together. Lu Huo looked at them like an idiot. What's the point of this? She doesn't like pointless battles, she just said that, she just wanted to give them a hand. Since everyone likes fighting so much, then you go. Lu Huo wished to be a lady quietly in the back. She is too lazy to do it. When they went outside, the ground was littered with charred corpses, barely recognizable from their clothes as Marines. What happened? It's all gone. Kid frowned. Who stole my prey? Luo stared at the ground with a solemn expression. It's almost like being struck by lightning. Thunder. Luffy glanced at Lu Huo. That guy is here too. What, that guy? Do you know anything about the Straw Hat? Luo asked. Forget it, there's nothing to say. Luffy didn't answer. What? Another heavenly dragon? Warring States felt a dull pain in his head. What's the matter? They urged the general to hurry over there, said a school official in charge of liaison. Is it about Enel again? It involves their political struggle. It's inconvenient for our navy to intervene. Let's just let it go. No, a more serious problem has occurred. It was Straw Hat Luffy who attacked the Tenryu. What? Warring States couldn't help but help his forehead. Is it that kid again? The trouble is constantly, what is going on with that clan? If Enel was to make Sengoku vigilant, then Luffy really gave him a headache. The former knows what to do, and is just playing sideballs, while the latter makes big news when it's okay. Defeating Crocodile, attacking Judiciary Island, attacking the Tianlong people, it will either make the world's situation turbulent, or challenge the prestige of the government and the navy. According to the intelligence, in addition to the Straw Hat Boy, there are pirates, Eustace Kid and several companions, and Trafalgar Law and several companions, as well as a red-haired woman of unknown origin and a blue mermaid. There are a total of 13 bounties, and there are 5 newcomers of over 100 million. Of course, the main culprits are Monkey D. Luffy, who hurt the Tianlong people, and the red-haired woman. It's okay for those guards who pretend to be dead to pass on information secretly, so the Navy has a good understanding of the situation in the auction house. Red-haired woman. Is it a pirate? Sengoku asked. No, I don't know, I never had any information about her. It should be the one who attacked the Tianlong people with the blue-haired mermaid in order to rescue the captured mermaid civilians, the colonel said hesitantly. There was obvious hesitation on the face of the warring states. Judging from the information the Navy has learned, this is clearly a civilian who was forced to fight with law. It would be against the justice in his heart if he shot against such civilians. But his responsibilities forced him to protect the Tianlong people. Op-world or just, they are fighting for the civilians. And those pirates who advocate freedom are the chaotic party. But sadly, this righteous power is in the hands of a greater evil. No matter how righteous the Navy is, the Sengoku cannot achieve a clear conscience on the issue of the Tianlong people. How's the situation with the Tianlong people? They all fainted. St. Roswald and Zaluria Palace were injured by bombs. If they don't rescue them quickly, their lives may be in danger. In short, the 3 of them should be taken as hostages. This is an unprecedented evil. Peace. Quote. Kizaru took a sip of tea and stood up. No matter how you attack the nobles of the world, it is an unforgivable felony. It is impossible for us not to act, Mr. Sengoku. I'll be dispatched. I'll be back soon, please rest assured. Isn't it just to deal with a few newcomers? Kazuna said that there is no pressure at all, just go for a walk. He is very confident and has the feeling that he can succeed immediately. As the highest combat power of the world government, he is one of a small group of people whose personal force is at the top of the world, and he has the capital of this self-confidence. But he didn't know that the current Chambord archipelago is a pit, a sinkhole. On the coast of the Chambord Islands, Akutagawa and Shiki are fishing. Riley felt the commotion on the island, knew that the general was coming soon, and walked towards Shachi's extortion bar. Milo sat on the branch, the dazzling thunder light slowly faded. He picked up the binoculars and admired the beauties showing their sexy long legs walking down the street. Anil and Carter wandered around idly. Chapter 358 Tumultuous Chambord Islands. Damn, the Navy is moving, the general is really coming. This city is going to be bad. What exactly happened? I heard that it was Straw Hat Luffy who beat up the Tianlong people. In the auction house number 16 inches. What the hell did that bastard do? He doesn't know if he beat the Tianlong people. Will the admiral lead the army here? The pirates on the Chambord Islands were in a commotion. Oh, did Luffy still beat the Tianlong people? Enel sat on Carter with an ice cream in his hand. Why did he beat the Tianlong people? Wasn't it the herring from Milo's family? Who knows? That guy in the straw hat is not normal. He's not normal than you. Carter said, actually, it's also a part of beating up the Tianlong people. Huh. The one who was caught was a mermaid friend named Kemi from the Straw Hat Gang. Herring went to save her compatriots, and then saw that Roswaiter was upset, and threw a bomb over there. Who is it? Enel asked. Kazuna. Yeah, that's the guy. Carter bought a bunch of grilled fish from a barbecue stall on the side of the road. How is it? Are you sure? Enel licked the ice cream. Kazuna, that guy is too fast. I'm not sure. The last time Milo was too careless and I got it so easily. Carter ate the fish in 3 or 2 bites. Forget it. Contact Huang and let him assist Milo. It's enough to fight back. There's no need to die. It's too close to the Navy headquarters, and it's not realistic to kill a general before they can react. It's not worth it if it's just serious injury. It's not good at all, but it may allow the world government to intervene more and fight the war. Add variables in vain. Herring, let's go back to Milo, it's too dangerous here. Liu Huo said. Yeah, I see. Herring nodded. Kimmy, you hurry up and escape to the sea. Bye-bye, you've been caught again. She gave Kemi a hug. Well, see you in Mermaid Island. Kemi said goodbye with tears. They parted ways with the Straw Hats. Sorry, it's us who dragged you down. Hachi said with an apologetic tone. It's all right, we're friends. He. Luffy's eyes were full of crescent moons, and he showed a warm smile like the rising sun. Xiaoba's nose is sour. By the way, Shachi just contacted me. She said that Rayleigh has returned to the store. Rayleigh, that coding artisan. That's great. Then we can sail to Mermaid Island and avoid the general. Usopp shouted happily. Rayleigh said he wanted to meet you, Luffy. Meet me. Luffy looked puzzled. Boom. A dazzling beam of light struck, and Kid narrowly escaped the sudden attack. Kid. Captain. Who is it? Kid looked in the direction of the attack. Bang, bang, bang. A huge figure walked out of the blue smoke, and every time he took a step, the ground made a thumping sound. That's. Why is he here? Shibukai, Tyrant, Bartholomew Bear. Kid's face was full of solemnity. Captain, Eustace Kid, with a bounty of 315 million Baileys. Killing Warrior Kira, with a bounty of 160 million Baileys. A dull mechanical voice came from his mouth. This is not Bartholomew Kumamoto, but a humanoid weapon developed by Double Bunker, a pacifist. It has the appearance of a big bear and the light beam of a kiwi, and the cost is equivalent to a naval warship. It didn't have more nonsense and launched the attack directly. Call out. A dazzling light came out of its mouth and hit Kid. Boom. The huge explosion splashed a large piece of dust, the high temperature melted the ground in an instant, and the scorched earth was bubbling with green smoke. Damn, it's a fierce attack. Kid avoided the attack, but, this doesn't work for me, I've already come here. How can you stop here? Even if you are Chiwahai, die for me too. A large amount of iron floated to Kid's side, condensing on his arm. Gears, firearms, swords, the metal forms 2 huge arms. Luo's escape route coincided with Kid's. When he saw the bear confronting Kid, His pupils shrank. I am really unlucky to meet Shichibukai. Why are you here? The pacifist did not answer his words. It was just a programmed weapon, rather rigid. Death Surgeon, Trafalgar Law, with a bounty of 200 million Baileys. When he saw Luo appear, it hit with a beam of light. It does not have the concept of concentrating its firepower to kill one first, and all the bounty criminals are within its striking range. See who hits whom. It's really unscrupulous. Kid's eyes flashed a trace of anger, and this kind of behavior simply ignored him at all. It's close to the Navy headquarters and Mary Joa, so it's not surprising what kind of characters appear. Cold sweat broke down on the face of the former slave, Champel, who was rescued by Luo. Kid then attacked the pacifists with Ro. The two pirates teamed up and still fought very hard. Reflection. Kid attacked it again with his mechanical arm. Boom. After being knocked down, the pacifist still got up very quickly. Damn, this guy, what's going on? Can't kill him. Kid looked irritable. He didn't know how many times he used this move to attack, but the results were very limited. The opponent seems to be immortal, standing up again and again. Now is not the time to slowly wear down the opponent. Now that this admiral of the Navy may come over at any time, it is very deadly to be dragged. What's the matter with his body? Luo had already sensed that something was wrong with this bear. Not only was his body a machine, but his behavior was not like a normal person at all. As if there is no self-awareness in general. He suddenly came to a horrifying conclusion that the strong man who pressed them to fight was not the big bear, but just a weapon of the Navy. But is this possible? Are all the newcomers so weak now? A frivolous voice came from the smoke caused by the battle. I saw a black hand in the shape of a claw, which easily tore off the head of the big bear. As if what he had in his hand was not the strong enemy who had just put them into a hard fight, but a piece of cheese. Trafalgar Law, I've wanted to see you for a long time. The person Rosanity put his life to save your current strength and worth are far from worthy of your 5 billion devil fruit. Ah. Chapter 359. You're weak, kid. Hey really? Kid looked at Enel with a shocked expression. That Chihuahua, the big bear, was killed so easily. Kira's tone was full of disbelief. Chang Pao's face became even more solemn. Isn't it impossible for the Chihuahua to fight? If you kill another Chihuahua, I'm afraid you won't be able to keep your seat. Is this guy also Chihuahua? Pakin's mouth widened. When did this thing become Chihuahua? You have to recognize the facts, new people. The real big bear is not this kind of waste. If he is really an enemy of that guy, even me is troubled. This is just a mass-produced weapon developed by Double Bunker. Alas, it's really disappointing. The current pirate juniors can't even beat this kind of thing. In this case, the new era will not have yours. A place to stand. Enel peeled a lollipop and threw it into his mouth. Very cheap candy, 500 Baileys, but he liked the taste. Luo was already stunned when Enel said the name Rosanity. He clenched his teeth tightly, holding the demon sword firmly in his hand and crying. From the back of his hand with blue veins, he could see his inner excitement. Why, how did you know the name? Don't you know, Luo, I have a good relationship with the Don Quixote family. I even performed a mission with Rosanity. Enel showed a look of nostalgia. He's a very reliable teammate, although occasionally a little confused. The first time I saw him was that he smoked and set his clothes on fire, and then wanted the sea to put it out, but was swept away by the waves. Speaking of which, I still saved his life. This is indeed Rosandy's style, and Luo has believed it 90% of the time. He also got information from it. Enel's cooperation with the Don Quixote family has been a long time, and it has already begun when his beloved Corazon was still alive. At the same time, Luo was also deeply shocked by Enel's strength. How old was he at that time? Actually have the qualification to cooperate with Doflamingo. What a terrifying talent. Enel's strength is largely due to his luck with picking up a powerful devil fruit. It fell from an apple tree when he was 4 years old in a daze and hit his head. Enel is not the kind of person with terrible talent. Except for the development of devil fruits, he often comes up with bold ideas, and the rest of his talents are really scumbags like ordinary people. A guy like Auntie who destroyed Elbath village at the age of 5 is a terrible talent. Combat power walks the general law. What are you doing here with me? Anal's intentions were unclear, making Luo very nervous. Well do and keep your face sullen. Luo, can't you come if you have nothing to do? Brother Doflamming, he really wants to kill you, a family traitor who has caused him huge losses, Enel said. Kid was already impatient. If you two want to do homework, don't pull me, I don't have time to waste with you here. Okay, then I'll just say it straight, you can be my subordinates. Enel had a smile on his face. Bastard, you want to die. This joke is not funny at all. Kid scowled. The head of Lefortwater, although I don't know how your relationship with Mr. Corazon is, don't make such an impossible request. I don't like being ordered by others. A white circle was not on Luo's left hand. Stopped and rotated, this was the precursor to him launching the slaughterhouse. If you don't want to, then forget it. I plan to formally form a pirate group recently. The current number seems to be too small, a bit insufficient. Seeing that your quality is not bad, I would like to invite you to give it a try. Anal doesn't care. Stall hands. Your arrogance is really unbearable. Give me death, bastard. Kid is a grumpy, and a little bit ignorant. Is it okay? Is this, Chaluo, naked contempt? Feeling insulted, he took action. Kid. Captain. His crew exclaimed, and it was obviously irrational to act directly. The pacifists just now are already very difficult, and this monster that kills pacifists in one blow is probably not something they can deal with now. A large number of swords flew towards Enel, and the overwhelming weapons buried him. He didn't dodge, as if frightened, and didn't do anything. There is no need for any action. Such an attack, even his scales can't be broken. Seeing that the other party was still standing there, Kira's face under the mask showed a bitter expression. I can't help it, I can only go on. HMPH Chiwahai, is it really not that easy to solve? Luffy has a record of defeating Shichibukai. Although the government conceals it, he can also deceive ordinary people. Of course the arrogant kid doesn't want to admit that he is not as good as Luffy, and Ino mocks him so much, he can't bear it. Just do it, anyway, the general will come to find the straw hat first. After defeating the Chiwahai in front of you, you should be able to add to your own record before leaving. As I said, I don't have much time to accompany you, so let's make a quick decision. Kid laughed wildly. Let's fight quickly, an idiot who can't recognize the situation. The voice was still far away at first, but as a dark shadow flashed quickly, the voice rang in my ears. Although I am still a little worse than the general, who gave you the illusion that you can fight against me. You are not Straw Hat Luffy, and I am not Crocodile. Boom. Anal kicked Kid's stomach sideways, and the latter flew backwards without any resistance like a cannonball, smashing into countless houses. Kid, you go rescue Kid, I'll hold him. Kira shouted. Then the next second, he followed in Kid's footsteps. Enel's expression turned cold. Tisk, I hate arrogant idiots the most. Right, Luo. Luo Gong stood up, his muscles tense, like a beast that was threatened. The strength of the tip of the iceberg that Enel is showing now is enough to make him despair. I know, Doflamingo wants to kill you and you want to kill him. I don't want to interfere in the affairs between you, but one thing you have to remember. Don't try to pull me. I'm going to be really pissed if I break some of my favorite items in the midst of your strife. The terrifying breath pressed Luo out of breath. He saw fear and death in the surging darkness behind Enel. Besides, before you take action against Dover, if you become my subordinate, I will help you to resist the pressure on his side. If you figure it out, come to my side to be a ship doctor, Enel said. He waved his hand, indicating that he could go. 7. Tease. Book friends, I am a problem teenager in Kyushu. I recommend a free app that supports downloading, listening to books, 0 ads, and multiple reading modes. Please pay attention to the book lovers and pay attention. Chapter 360 Yellow Ape Landing. "Huh, Captain, do you know him?" Beppo sighed in relief when he looked at Anil, who had turned into a black spot. He was quite frightened. Maybe he needs a pretty shabir to keep his shock down. Torafalgar Law ignored him and looked solemn. He knew that sooner or later, Doflamingo would notice him as long as he set foot on the voyage. If he didn't have enough strength before coming into contact with him, he would still flee in embarrassment just like he did 13 years ago. Maybe temporarily relying on Enel's subordinates, and then rebelling after he has enough strength, it would be a good idea to deal with Doflamingo. Or show his worth and let Enel help him get revenge. He doesn't think that the ultimate power of the fruit of surgery, the surgery of agelessness, will make people not interested. What if he could avenge Corazone's life? Anyway, his life was also given by that person, so he was lucky to live so long. Why not use your life to do the last thing for him? Milo put down the binoculars. The big white legs of the young ladies could no longer be appreciated, and there was no one on the street, as if they had been looted by pirates. He couldn't turn his head. How could he do it? In the eyes of the people on this island, the Admiral seems to be a heinous devil. It's okay for the pirates to run away. Why are even the civilians hiding? They can clearly talk and laugh with the pirates, and they are so scared when they see the Navy. This gives the impression that the general is the leader of the robber. A terrifying voice galloped from a distance, as fast as light. In a blink of an eye, he came to the island from dozens of kilometers away. Milo remembered the voice, the one who had driven him off the island of Bika 8 years ago. "It's him, hee. What a coincidence. Maybe we can try to fight this time." Although Enel said that he did not want to formally with the Navy yet, it was none of Enel's business, it was Milo's own decision. At the moment when their relationship has not been exposed, it can't be related to Enel. "Captain, let's leave, it's too dangerous here." When the pirates were in a panic, Hawkins was still sitting on a step and playing with his magic cards. "God's stick, so calm. Since fate says that he is not dead yet, then wave. What are you afraid of? Still alive anyway." Then, the unlucky boy became the first among the supernovas to meet Admiral Kizaru. This old man seems to be not very smart, and uses the wiretapping bug as a normal phone bug, and he can't contact Zontaomaru, so he wants to ask someone for directions. But the street was empty, so he went to Hawkins. "Hey, do you know a man named Zontaomaru?" He lengthened his tone with a lazy look. Hawkins' crew looked at Kizaru in horror. The Admiral's deterrent power could terrify them just by name. Not to mention meeting a real person directly. Enel's search range is also very wide, and Milo noticed Kizaru almost at the same time. At this moment, he and Carter are observing Kiwi from a tall building. They are holding watermelons that are more than 10 years old, made in Alabasta, big and sweet. "As for why you haven't finished eating yet, didn't the 92 Law fight finish drinking? Hey, are all admirals like this? Why still ask pirates for directions?" Carter rolled his eyes at him, as if to say, "Are you too embarrassed to talk about others? What kind of you don't have a point in your heart?" Hawkins replied quite calmly, "I don't know, you can ask someone else." Next, there was a big melee. Monk, Uruki, the fake bear, Drake, and Apu appeared one after another. But under the offensive of pacifists and Kayabu, the 4 supernovas with more than 100 million have almost no resistance. It collapsed in an instant. Uruki fell to the ground with a look of unwillingness on his face. "Damn it, I finally got here. There is the Admiral of the Navy headquarters in the past, and there is Chiwahai in the back. Is this the end?" "That's right, although it's not easy for you, but your journey is over. It's really hard work." Kizaru's voice was like a snail crawling. It seems to be mercilessly mocking their overreach, which is the equivalent of rubbing salt in the wound. It made the 4 supernovas who were pierced by his beams and fell to the ground even more angry and unwilling. However, all they can do is accept their fate, because the gap is so huge that they have no hope. Anil looked at the ground with great interest. In a previous life, there was a post saying that Kizaru was a spy of the Revolutionary Army, and he felt that there was some truth to it. because the performance on the Chambord Islands is so abnormal. Of the 4 supernovas he knocked over, none of them died. He also managed to escape to a new world. When he was dealing with the Straw Hats, he was also playing slowly, as if he was waiting for someone to save them. Otherwise, with his ability, if he gets serious, he can instantly kill the Straw Hat pirates. There is also a war on the top. This guy is serious about paddling. Except for a wave of presence with Marco at the beginning, the fights are like drinking tea in the afternoon. Huh. A dangerous breath filled the air, and a thunderbolt fell from the sky and hit the pacifist. Boom. The huge force directly turned it into a pile of scrap metal. Arcs of electric arcs jumped over the slag, shooting out sparks. The thunder light dissipated and turned into a human figure. A man wearing a blue and white shirt, white trousers with lightning patterns, and a black-sleeved white robe trench coat appeared in front of them. There's still a lot of rubbish, let's clean up one first. Milo's mouth curled up. Yo, long time no see, maybe this is the first official meeting, Admiral. It's terrifying. One by one is like a monster, and now there's a more terrifying monster. It's really a headache. I just want to come here to relax. Huang Yuan said so, but his expression was still relaxed. I don't see anything you're afraid of. Kizaru's image was similar to what Milo imagined. Whether its appearance or voice, it's all so wretched. Raiden, could it be? Uruki looked at Milo with an unbelievable look in his eyes. Today is really a lively day, to see so many big people at one time. Are you a god? Quote. Huh. Milo turned his head to look at Uruki. Wings of this shape, are you a Pika? Are there any survivors? Beyond my expectations. Ha ha ha, it seems that the mountains and rivers are not exhausted yet. The turning point is coming. Uruki showed a smile on his face.